All right, everyone. Welcome back to another Painting from Life, session 45. We're so glad we're back. It's been a couple of months. We were, holiday season and all the things. It makes it very difficult to get during when you're seeing family and traveling so much to get everybody rounded back up again. But here we are, and we're looking forward to this being the debut of 2025 and continuing to go from here. So tonight we have a very special guest, a former artist in resident here at East Oak Studio, Caroline Nelson. Wave at the camera, Caroline.
Which
over
one?
there, yes. That one over there. Yes. And then we have Evie Erb, one of our normal artists in residence or present artists in residence. Normal. There's nothing normal about Evie. She is the most unique person ever. So we like unique people. So anyway, we this evening are going to be doing a classic Caroline setup. And it is going to be mandarin oranges. And we do have the reference images put up on our website. And it's the normal thing, just click the link below in the description and it will take you to be able to submit your email. And once you've submitted your email, you will have access to not only that reference image, but all of the reference images from the previous episodes. So come paint along with us. Let us know where you're from and what's going on. And we look forward to all hanging out. So also, as usual, if for some reason something's not working, let us know and we'll try to fix it. But so far, I feel like everything seems to be up and running. So the girls had a chance to work a little bit on at least getting the block in ready to go so that they would have more time to show you the painting itself. So without further ado, we're going to get going. Caroline, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yeah, it's so good to see you. You've come in several times. She's still a part of our East Oaks family. So when we have dinners and events, she'll come hang out with us, and every now and again come to the studio to say hello. So she's still in the area. It's great to have her here.
It's very nice to be here.
I'm excited to paint with you.
Yeah, I'm excited as well.
I'm excited to
Let's see
paint
how
these
this goes.
oranges. I don't think I've ever painted oranges before.
Well, I've painted them many times.
So did you get these at Wegmans? Is that where you got them?
Trader Joe's.
Trader
Nice.
Joe's.
Yeah,
That's
they-
great.
they
See,
have
I
them
mean, I
right
thought
now.
it was only Wegmans that carried them
Oh,
with
yeah.
the actual leaves on them. So that's good to know. So everybody, if you have a TJ's close by, you might have mandarin oranges that have leaves on them.
Run there right now.
Exactly. Before they're out of season.
No, these are great. These are very fun to paint because they still have their leaves and their stems. And I think that this was like $8.99. I'm not sure. They were more expensive from Wegmans, I'll say that.
Yes. I will say, though, Wegmans does have everything. If you ever need something, they might be more expensive, but there's a reason for that. It's because they carry everything. So.
And they have a little train that goes around the shop up
I
above.
forgot about
You
that.
ever notice that?
Yeah.
They do.
I've
It's
heard
always like
about
right
it
over
and
the
seen it
hummus.
once. Yeah.
So you get some nice ambiance as you're shopping for your mandarins.
So Emily Fossum is joining us, and she says, looking forward to watching you all paint tonight, currently stuffing Valentine's Day cards with the kids, but hoping to paint along with you soon. Well, you'll have to tell Maddox in London we said hi.
Hi, Emily. Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
Happy Valentine's Day,
coming up.
everyone.
Oh yeah, happy Valentine's Day.
And then we have Todd Clancy who says, I made it. And Heidi says, hello, I'm Heidi Emma from the southwest of Western Australia.
Wow.
I'm tuning in at 7 a.m. my time and will be transitioning to teaching 5-year-olds this morning, but we'll be showing them your live stream. That is awesome.
Oh my gosh.
We are so excited. Make sure you pull up the reference image for them so that they can see what we actually are painting. That would be great. And then Nadia says, hello, everyone. Looking forward to watching you today. Nadia is one of my very talented artist who is a mentee of mine.
Oh, hi.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's just great.
I love how many people we get to meet and say hi to from doing this.
Oh, I love this. Emily Fossum just said that she says, in quotes, Uncle Lewis is famous from London.
Aw, oh my gosh.
Uncle Louie.
Yep, Uncle Louie. I love those little kids. Scott Jones says, I couldn't resist. I mean, look who's here to watch. Emily says, after hearing their shout out, London goes, and now we are famous. That's great.
That's cute.
That's very cute.
Jean's joining us from Florida. And
Hello.
she says, can we see the setup? What I might do actually is I have one extra camera available tonight because we were going to have 3 artists and then something came up. And so we only are down to 2. So I do have an extra camera. I might actually throw it onto the scene so everyone can see up in the top corner what they are painting. Heidi says, I've got the reference picture for them to have to go to a while out in the bush on Bush School Day this morning.
Wow, that sounds very Australian.
Right?
Yeah.
The bush.
Bush.
Love inspiring the next generation of budding artists. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the best time to get them.
Yeah.
That's when I was introduced to painting, is when I was like 4 or 5 and would just go watch our local artist paint, who was quite the role model for me.
I remember all of my elementary, middle school, and high school art teachers. They all had a very big impact on me.
Yeah.
Heidi, yes, we can put. She asked if we had a place that we end up posting the results, and yes, we'll post them on our Instagram page, and we'll make sure to maybe send it out in our next email newsletter as well. Take care, Heidi. Have a good day with the kids. And then we have another one watching from Brazil.
Hello to everyone.
All right,
That's so
everyone, if you
cool.
give me just a moment, I'm going to see if I can set up another camera on the setup. So just bear with me. All right, ladies, you're up on talking.
Oh. What are you
Don't get
thinking
nervous.
about right now? You, yes, you think. Let
I'm
me
just
interview
thinking
you.
about like how not normal I am.
Oh gosh.
Thanks, Louie.
I was thinking I bit off more than
It's
I
okay.
could chew
Yeah,
with
I take it
this.
as a compliment. That's okay.
That's how I did it.
I'm just teasing.
My dad likes to say that being weird intensifies with each new generation. So when we call him weird, he's like, well, you guys are doubly weird because you're my children.
I love that. One of my favorite quotes growing up was, the only normal people are the ones you don't know very well.
I think I bit off more than I could chew with all of the mandarins that I put into my composition.
I'm hoping I didn't. We'll
I
see.
think I need to.
Yet to be determined. Which ones are you painting, Caroline?
Majority.
Yeah.
So that might not be good.
You've got it.
Under a time constraint. At least we don't have to do like, well, okay, I guess it's a pro and a con that we don't have to do a bottle break.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I usually do these in 2 layers, so this is a little bit different for me. But I guess I could work on this more later.
I'm curious, what was the impetus or like starting behind your whole like fruit series? Like,
My Mandarin era.
Yeah.
I was.
you have an orange period. Like,
I did.
no? Yeah.
I really liked hanging fruit, and when I was studying with Henry Wingate, I was really inspired by Justin Wood and by what he was doing. And I remember he did a couple like Trump loyal things, and I was like, that's so amazing. That's like the height, because it was like I loved still life, and that's what I would mostly do with Henry in his studio, because it was very affordable, and I was painting everything 100% from life and from like north facing windows. So it was like I had beautiful light, and my dad gave me this old cutout part of like a door that's like all of like my rectangular Trump loyal
Yeah.
things, and he was like, this would make a really interesting painting backdrop, and I was like, yeah, it would. So
It's got that great texture.
yeah, it was like somebody had painted oil paint over, or no, somebody painted not oil paint over like a oil painted door. So it was cracking a lot because you can't mix paints like that. And I set some stuff up, and I think my first one was pears that I had gotten from my friend's pear tree. And it was just so fun, and I loved, like, I just loved the look of this type of setup. So I got really into that, and that was like my main still life for a while. And the mandarins came about when I was contacted by a very lovely woman in California to do a 30-inch by 40-inch still life of a whole bunch of mandarins. She wanted it to be like summery, so she sent me this inspiration image, and I forgot what the artist's name is. I think it was like Ramon something. He like lived in the 1800s, and he did this beautiful painting of this like orange branch creeping over a wall, and there was like it looked like a summer table. It was like an outdoor still life with like all of this nice imagery on it. I think there was like a picture and a couple other things. And so that was my big mandarin painting where I painted like 30 mandarins, although it's probably not that many, but I painted a lot of mandarins on there. And I did all of that from life. And yes, the mandarins sat at East Oaks for a long period of time, probably past their prime. And they got a little bit shriveled.
As they do.
Yep, so that's the fun thing about still life, is that it is not permanent and you have to work with it. It's not, these are like, mandarins are way more forgiving than flowers. Flowers change so fast. But I feel like they're really straightforward fruit to paint. Like you have, it's not like a peach or a plum where there's variations of color over the whole thing. It's just orange. So it's kind of like a relaxing fruit to paint.
Yeah.
Although it's very, like, you have to balance the chroma really well because it's very chromatic and you want to have that like hit of intense orange.
Yeah, I'm really excited to paint these for that reason. I feel like, I don't know, orange is really not a color that I use a lot in my work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, I love fruit.
It's gonna be really fun, like the way that they're hanging so high up, you can see the little like nubbin on the bottom of them.
Oh yeah.
Like all the light that's bouncing up into them.
Mm-hmm.
It's really pretty.
Did you get the camera set up?
I'm working on it right now.
Yeah, I miss fruit still lives. This is so low pressure. So you can like kind of mess up a fruit and it looks like a fruit, but if you mess
Yeah.
up a face, it's not good.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel like each one has their own little personality though.
Yeah. This was where I discovered form. well, I knew that it existed, but I'm not like Isaac Newton, but like I, personally, I discovered form for everybody. No, this is where like form actually clicked for me. Painting mandarins. I guess because I had to paint so many of them, but I remember it was like, I was so frustrated because I just couldn't get it. And everybody was like, form, form, form. And I was like, I don't know what you, like I understood in theory what they meant, but I didn't know how to put it into practice.
Sure.
And they tried to explain it to me at GCA when I was there for a month and I did not get it. And because I had very optical training. And
Okay, you did their like winter intensive?
yeah,
right?
it was like a winter drawing boot camp, which
So cool.
I learned a lot doing that. I didn't get form, but I learned about it. But when I was here and painting all these still lifes, that's where I was like, I don't know, like I kind of finally got it. Like the concept of turning form with paint and how to make that illusion, kind of. I don't know how successful I am at it. I try to be, but
Yeah, I really hadn't had any form training before I came here. Another failure of art school.
yeah. I don't think that they ever even talk about form.
No.
I don't think I ever heard that. I heard painting was dead.
Yeah.
I didn't hear they
No.
were like, here's how you form model.
Yeah, at Micah, it was all everything concept. That was like the most important thing. So like, yeah, actually painting was not even important. So I love the painting department.
Yeah.
Studied
The
ceramics.
idea is the most important thing.
Yeah. How are you supposed to make an idea come to life if you have no technique?
Right?
That's my goal.
I feel like I've actually like been avoiding the orange.
Oh, I went right in and I have no background.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like flip-flop doing that. Like, do I paint the thing around the thing or do I paint the thing itself? You
I
know what I
think-
mean?
Context is always good. That's what I don't know.
All right, everyone, we have at least one live feed on the reference mandarins, but if you want the full reference image, there is a little bit of extra part of it that is not in the camera shot. So I would recommend going and checking out the link, and you'll be able to get the whole photo. This is most of it, but it's not all of it.
Do you ever cook with oranges?
No,
No.
no, they give me acid
No,
reflux.
they're for painting, not eating.
Yeah. My gosh, you wouldn't want to eat any of the fruit that I paint afterwards. No, it's sacrificed.
That's like,
art.
yeah, when we painted pumpkins the other year,
Mm-hmm.
those guys got a little gnarly after a little while. But then Tina and I threw one in the woods, and then we had a volunteer pumpkin vine
Aw, it
this
brought new
past
life.
year. Yeah, it was really cool.
The circle of life.
Yeah, actually, that was a lot of fun. One or two of the pumpkins lasted almost a year.
Wow.
They did, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
They were down here in the
They're really
studio.
pretty.
Yeah,
Wow.
isn't that something?
That's crazy.
So Daniel says, "Good evening, ladies. Working on a portrait instead tonight, but love the oranges. Cold and snowy in Michigan. Yep,
Aw.
I don't envy you, my friend.
Oh, I do. I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I miss snow.
Oh, I'll take snow for about 2 to 3 days when it stays pretty and white, and then after that, I'm good.
Yeah.
I've had my fill. You know.
I'm with Lewis on that one. I'm not a cold weather girl.
I miss it. What's the point of winter if you don't have snow? That's how I feel about it.
That's
I'm
fair.
Like, it's
Like,
just all cold and sad.
I'm like, we got a little tiny bit of snow this year, so like I'm good. I'm done with winter now.
Oh yeah, I was out of town for that. I missed the one a little bit of snow. That
It was
I was so
nice.
mad.
Yeah. We got a little snow day. And the city actually did a good job of salting the roads for once.
Right?
So
They did.
I did see
was
that.
proud
I
of
was
that.
like, they are definitely preparing for feet of snow. It's
normally
like-
they don't prepare well because we never get snow. We have to like get our snow plows. I think we borrow them from Virginia. I'm pretty sure.
Oh really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Yeah.
well, I mean, Virginia never prepares well either.
I feel like they probably get at least a little bit more snow than we do
Yeah,
typically.
I remember like growing up there, right outside DC. We always got snow every winter, and it would usually be that we'd probably get out of school for like a week or two.
That's awesome. Sorry? Oh, sorry.
And
That's plenty.
ooh, that's too dark.
So Heidi was asking, what kind of lighting do you use for your still life setup? How about you tell us what you use, Caroline, and then we'll talk about what we are using to light it right now.
North-facing windows are the most beautiful light, and that's what I used to use. But now I use it's like the same brand that I used at my old studio space here, Lewis. I forget what it's like it's like a soft box.
Like the aperture lights that we had?
Yeah, it's
or-
like that, and I think I just used the light bulbs that came with the kit, and then
the soft box. That
Yeah.
was that was a really affordable
yeah.
setup kit that you could get from either B&H or Amazon.
Yeah.
And I mean, those hold, they have several different types. Well, one of them holds like 5 different bulbs of like normal socket bulbs that you would put in your lamp. And then you just get bulbs that actually have good high color rendering on them. And you can put those in there, and some of them are like daylight style. Or you could use incandescent, just whatever it is that you prefer. And obviously, some are warmer and some are cooler. But yeah, and they make high valued bulbs for those kind of things. And then there's also like studio lights as well. So the studio right now we are using film studio lights in here, and they are probably over-engineered for what a lot of people need. So there's other things that would work just as well that are much cheaper, but I do really like these. These are made by Colabor, and they are the CL2200s. So these particular ones are able to do all the different colors of the spectrum, but they also have a good color rendering for just warm to cool. So that's why I got them. And I think they are about $600. But I mean, they're incredibly powerful, way more powerful than you need for a studio. They make some that are, instead of being 2200, they're 60, which that represents the wattage. And so with the wattage, they have some that are just 60 watt, and they actually work really, really well. And Aperture is a company I use a lot, and they also make a 60 watt version, and they're excellent for small studio spaces.
Yeah, it's on my wish list. Lights.
Sarah says, ladies, you should paint the entire thing at once. It kind of looks like they're getting close to it, or at least Caroline is painting a lot of it.
I might be flying too close to the sun. I don't know.
I will say for a 3-hour painting, it's hard to get it all done at once.
Yeah. I'm not painting all of it. Because also using this square panel, if I were to try to paint them all, I feel like the composition wouldn't really work with that dimension.
Todd says something. He goes, "So great to see the artist. I've come to know y'all by the back of your heads and the way you hold your brush."
Hope mine looks nice. Jeez.
I will say though, we have a small thumbnail of their faces today that are up in the top corner. So that's
Oh,
nice. They
really?
get to see what you look like when you actually are talking, which is great.
Aw.
I feel like sometimes I make weird faces when I paint.
Oh, I definitely do.
I feel like it's like kind of something that like kids do or like people do in cartoons where like if you're concentrating, you like stick your tongue out.
Yeah.
I do that when I paint sometimes.
Yeah.
I always say sometimes the right stroke, you have to turn your mouth just the right way.
Or like your whole body.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, that's what I do.
Exactly.
That's why my back
That's the
hurts.
way I like look at my paintings. When I'm stepping back, I'm like turning
Oh,
my
yeah.
whole body sideways sometimes. I'm like, I don't know if this is really helping, but for some reason it makes
not.
me feel like I'm actually seeing it better.
Or like sometimes I catch myself like standing on one leg for no reason when I paint.
Oh, I do that.
I'm like, why am I standing this way?
Do I like this?
Jan says, at least the oranges don't move like flowers, leaves, and artichokes. Yes. Are they
Artichokes.
flowers, especially if you get yourself a nice peony flower, they're gonna dance on you for
Yeah.
sure. Tina Figarelli says, "Hey, what's up, guys? Sorry I'm
Hi,
late
Tina.
for PFL. I'll be there in about 12 hours. It's a long drive."
Aw. We miss you, Tina.
We do. We
Hi.
miss you, Tina. We should, Tina. We should have you come on remotely. I'll like send you a link, and then
that'd
you
be
can
so
like
fun.
join us. The girls won't be able to hear you because I don't have headphones for them to hear you, but that would be a lot of fun. In the future, we need to do that.
Yeah, that'd
Very
be so
fun.
cool.
Do you pre-mix your colors?
Toria waves, and
do,
Honey
yeah.
says, "Which brand and colors are you using?" So it looks to me, I'm like looking over at Caroline's colors
Oh, my
selection. It
gosh.
looks like she has an assortment of Winsor Newton, Rembrandt. I'm not sure what that other brand is. What brand's the yellow, the Naples yellow that you have right there?
Oh, Van Gogh.
Van
It's
Gogh?
not
Van
very
Gogh.
high quality.
And I know that she also uses Michael Harding for a few colors like white. Didn't you say you used
Oh,
Michael
I'm
Harding's
using
white?
Rublev right now.
Oh, Rublev,
Yeah, I'm
that's it.
trying their mixing white instead of the lead white.
Which is sort of a lead alternative, correct?
I think so. I'm not sure if they advertise it as that, but
Okay.
maybe.
Okay.
Do you know the main pigment in that?
PW6 plus PW22. Titanium dioxide / barium sulfate.
Oh, interesting. Barium.
Yeah, it's very, it's kind of like toothpaste texture. So you definitely need a little bit of oil with it. It doesn't have that like really nice, smooth lead white quality. I don't know if anything ever will though.
Todd says East Oaks needs a road trip to the New Salem Museum. I agree. We should go see my dear old friend Michael and see how everything's going. That would be a lot of fun. We'd love to do that.
That'd be very fun. Okay, I think I need to cover more ground. I think I just need to be more loose.
For the record, I'm using
Oh, yes.
a
Edie.
mixture of Michael Harding and Rublev, which really are kind of like my two main brands. I think my Cobalt actually is Rembrandt, but yeah, I'm excited. I feel like I've talked about this on here before, but rather than using cadmium for my yellow, I'm using Rublev's Chrome Yellow Light. And I love it. It's so stringy. Like, let me see if I can like show you guys on camera. Like, I don't know if you can tell.
Yeah, put it up on the
Like,
yeah, on the painting a
whoa.
little lower. Yeah, ooh,
It's
it is very stringy, very viscous.
it's really fun to work with and play around with. So
How do you like Michael Harding? I've never tried.
I love them. They I have more paint from them than any other brand, I would say. Yeah, I think it's definitely worth trying. Their
Okay.
texture is always really nice, their consistency. And yeah, I don't know. I really love that they let me show you like on their packaging they have actually like the paint on it, so you can kind of get a sense in the store of like, you know, how really like how transparent something is. Like
Oh, yeah.
you know, you can very clearly see just from the package that like let me like, you know, this is super transparent, this is not.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, the one caveat to that though is that I don't know this for certain, but I'm fairly sure that that also means that there's like on their lead tin yellow, there's actually like lead tin yellow on the outside of it. So you
Oh,
maybe don't want to like touch it like a whole lot.
oh.
I've actually wondered that before. I kind of want to ask him the next time I see him at Portrait Society, but
I've met Michael Harding.
he's really nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's a nice
I've
guy.
never-
Yeah.
super nice guy.
That's pretty cool.
And his wife, yeah, his wife is really, really sweet.
Yeah, she's precious.
But yeah, I really like their paint. So
Mm-hmm. How did
Evie
you-
Todd was saying that he bonded over quitting smoking with you a while back.
that's awesome. How's it going, buddy? I feel like
And he says if we come up, he'll buy lunch when we come
Aw.
up to Massachusetts.
that's great. I just hit day 600
Wow.
the other day.
That's
For
huge.
Congratulations.
Quitting smoking.
Pretty
Thank you.
awesome.
Yeah, for anybody out there who's trying, I'll root you on. I'll cheer you on. It's a really, really great thing to do. Not easy, but well worth it.
Jackson says, just joining for the first Painting from Life session from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Aw, hi.
Welcome, welcome.
But it's cold there too.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like anywhere in Michigan would be freezing right now.
I almost went to school in Michigan, but it was very expensive for art school.
Yeah, I think art school in general is just very expensive.
I had the pleasure of meeting Jackson at Portrait Society. I think it was last year. Was it last year? It might have been the year before. One of those two. So I told him that he should be the next cast person for Superman because he has like the Superman look. He's got like
got a
strong
chin.
jawline. You know, he's got the whole look.
Okay, wait, are we talking
fun.
Henry Cavill Superman?
Which one's Henry Cavill? That I don't know
The
which.
most recent
The most
Superman.
recent one? Yes. Yes.
Okay. You know, I watched those recently with Sean, and I was like, I don't know. I wasn't as convinced. I'm
Well,
not
that's why
super into-
Jackson needs to do it instead.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go. You're calling. Put down the paintbrush.
Superhero things are, it's just not my genre.
No.
Although I did like the Batman
Oh, with
with Robert Pattinson.
oh, I didn't watch that. Whatever his name is, the Christian
Christian Bale.
Bale.
Yeah.
what else did I see him in? I feel like that's one of Sean's pet peeves when we watch movies. Is I'll see an actor and it's just like they've acted in different things, and I'll always feel like, where have I seen that person? And he's like, that is the most like you always ask that question. They're an actor, of course they've acted in other things. He was like, just wait till it's over to look them up. And I'm like, no, this is Like I need to scratch this itch. I need to look them up.
I do the same, like go on their IMDb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that too.
Jeff Foxworthy has a great bit on that where he's like, back in the day, you'd be watching the show and you'd be like, oh, I feel like I've seen that person in something else before. And then like the person next to you would be like, yeah. And that was it. that was all she wrote. There was no Googling and like looking it up or anything. You just you just rested in the fact that, well, you're just not going to know.
Oh my gosh, it hurts my brain not to know. Like, see, I just remembered what I've seen in is that car movie. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Wait, say it again?
Ford versus Ferrari.
Yeah.
Christian Bale.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah, names. That's why I married my wife, is because she's incredible with names. I was like, it was meant to be because I can't remember anyone's name very well.
I'm so bad with names.
And she's so good, so talented at it. By the way, Fina says, "Go Evie, 600 days."
Aww.
And then
thanks,
Todd
Fina.
says that he's at 1 year, 1 month, 11 days, and 20 hours.
Wow.
So, and then Honey says, "I quit 37 days ago." So look
Oh
at
my
this.
gosh.
Nice. Oh my gosh.
Y'all, it's
Congratulations,
amazing.
everybody.
Proud of y'all. That's amazing.
Emily says, "Love seeing all these friends in the chat here, who all will be at Portrait Society."
I will be there. I am
Woo.
very excited.
I won't. I'll be on honeymoon.
Well, I think if you're on your honeymoon, I think that's going to be a lot more enjoyable. I mean, Portrait Society's fun, but honeymoon's a once in a lifetime.
I have always wanted to go to Portrait Society. I haven't been to like an art convention thing in a very long time. I mean, since I went to my first one in 2019, and I haven't been since. So I guess the pandemic kind of threw a wrench in gatherings that were large like that, but it was it was very invigorating. It was really, I was like, wow, I'm around all these people that actually speak my language. So I want to go again to something someday in the future.
Yeah, it'd be fun for you to come with us. I feel like
This
every year they do a really good job of like seating us together at like the banquet dinner, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's amazing that they're able to do that, because like trying to figure that kind of thing out for 800 people.
I know, it's amazing.
It's pretty incredible. So
I could not.
That would be like the most nightmare wedding ever.
Right.
800 people.
Kim Mazarito, man, she's got a talent when
Yeah,
it
it's
comes to
pretty
that thing.
amazing.
She's so good at managing that whole organization. I mean, her and Christine. Christine, is the CEO, but those two together make a dynamic duo.
Dream team.
Yep. So Gail says, "Hi from icy, snowy Oregon." It's I was taking a call, getting my ducts sealed for free as part of a research project. Totally legit. And Scott says he'll be there, and I will be there as well. So we're gonna have a good time.
Yeah. Come say hi to us. Yeah, it honestly, I don't know, it feels like a family reunion.
Todd says that he has a question for Uncle Louie. "I got commissioned to do a portrait of three little, I think, well, it looks like we're going to have to wait for the rest of the message to come through, because I think it stopped there. But congratulations on getting three. I'm assuming it's three little children, or something like that, or pets of some sort. So looking forward to hearing about it, Todd.
Oh my gosh, we should do a pet portrait night again.
Oh my God, yeah, we have to, because I didn't get a chance to do Rosie.
Yes.
And
Rosie would be a
Rosie is
perfect
our
model.
mascot here at East Oak Studio. She is our emotional support when we need it most. So, and she makes her rounds every morning. She comes down as soon as she hears people's voices and makes her rounds to get her pets.
Yeah, we need to do a pet portrait day. Carolyn, do you have a pet?
No, I want one, but I don't. I've always wanted a dog.
Yeah. Oh.
You should. I mean, it's so good to have a little friend
Yeah.
when you're painting. One that will just curl up.
Yeah, I really want a dog. And I have a bigger space, and dog fur won't get into everything I do.
There you go.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like
Dog fur definitely gets into things.
cat hair is my main accessory sometimes.
You could almost weave your own canvas with it, right, Evie?
Oh,
Oh, that's pretty disgusting.
so gross. Oh.
No, Rosie, and when I'm down here and I'm varnishing, that's the only time Rosie is not allowed to be down here. And
Yeah.
one time I had just varnished something, and Parisa, my wife, let her downstairs, and she comes waltzing in. The first thing she does is do like a big shake as if she had just come out of the water. I was like, no, Dust City fur. So
Yep. Yeah, that's rough. Varnishing, man.
Gail asks, does Rosie tolerate being observed closely? My dog Jenny runs away. It freaks her out. No, Rosie has the sweetest sad eyes, and she will stare deeply into your soul when you look at her. However, she won't sit still long enough for me to be able to paint her. We might have to do it from a photo, but that's okay because I only have about 12,000 photos of Rosie. It'd be hard to decide which one to do.
All of them.
I mean, I think I have about 12,000 photos of Rosie. There's so many pictures.
Lots of material.
She's just too cute.
She's very cute.
Like, I can't not take cute puppy photos.
So the rest of Todd's text came in. So he says, I got commissioned to do a portrait of 3 kids, and it has to be from this cell phone pic. They are wearing the same matching Christmas PJs and are sitting close together. Well, that's so, what I usually say, Todd, is any words of wisdom. What I usually say is that I first compliment the photographer, whoever that might have been in the family, of saying that I'm sure that it has a wonderful memory tied to it. And if it's a great photo, then excellent. Go straight for it, do it, But every now and again, some people will have a photo that has a deep sentimental value that might not necessarily translate well as a painting. And so sometimes I'll tell them that if you're going to spend a significant amount of money on something like a portrait, we want to make sure that the photo is translates well enough to be worthy of being put into paint, because sometimes photos just don't look as good in paint. So knowing that this is like a special memory, we want to make sure that it's given the respect it deserves, and it actually probably exists best as a photo. But if this is a great photo and you feel like, I always tell my people, if it's not a photo that I took, that I have to approve it first. And I usually say that before I see the photo, just so that they already have that expectation. If you're planning on doing things that are different or altering from the photo, that can be very challenging depending on your skill set and where you are in your artistic journey. So those are like the first few things, but a lot depends on pricing, where you are in your career, what it is that you enjoy painting, all of those things. So I hope this helps with limited information, but let me know more, and hopefully I can advise more.
Louie, you're like the most diplomatic person I know.
I'm gonna
That's
like
such a great way of saying that.
yeah. I'm gonna go back through like the transcript of this, and I'm gonna copy and paste what you said.
It
What
might
a great answer.
It might have come from from many years of experience in that field.
Well, that's like such a thoughtful, kind way to communicate with somebody, because it's acknowledging that this photo might matter to them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like sometimes iPhone pictures are not good to paint from.
I remember one earlier in my career where somebody took just a flash photograph, and this is back when you developed photos. And it was them in the passenger seat turning around and taking a picture of their kids in the back, and they were all just with like their arms around each other, and it was like a flash that had just whitewashed all their faces, and they were completely flat.
Did it have like red eyes?
Yeah, red eyes, had all of the things, you know.
Oh, man.
And so it would have been a very challenging portrait to make and paint.
Jeez.
Yeah, back in the Kodak days.
Yep.
Honestly, I used to love when I was a little kid and my mom would like need to go to the Kodak store and get film developed. It was always really fun going with her. Like it felt like Christmas morning, like when you get the little packet of photos and you get to go through them.
Yeah, isn't it? Honestly, I do miss that.
I just ordered a bunch of photos from my wedding. So I got a bunch of like, you know, photo packets. And I was like,
Aw.
Oh, that's
this
great.
is such a great feeling.
It was such a beautiful wedding too, up in the Appalachian Mountains, you know, right at the golden hour of the day.
Oh,
It was perfect temperature, perfect weather. It was like all the things.
We got very lucky with the weather, all
Yes.
things considered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was only 2 weeks after the hurricane.
It
right?
was 1 week after Hurricane
Wow.
Helene.
wow.
Yeah, trying to pull off a wedding in the midst of an actual natural disaster. Yeah, I wouldn't wish that kind of stress on anyone. It was a lot. But we did it. It was worth it. And it was beautiful.
Tina says, if it's an issue with bad photo quality, you can always find one of those AI photo restoration things online. It works. Remini is a popular one. I actually have used Remini on a very blurry photo to sharpen it before, and it does. It's pretty incredible. So that's where sort of like AI sometimes is for the win, when you can like take like an old photo that might not have like really great color, or something is off about it, you know, maybe it's blurry or very grainy is a good one, where if like sometimes you can't see what's going on because of all the noise. Yeah, there are some really great AI apps for sharpening everything up, and they really do a great job of keeping the quality of the photo and making it even better.
It's a really good idea, Tina.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tina may have shown me that at one point. Yeah, I was wondering how long it was going to take for like AI to be part of the conversation. We were talking a little bit about AI art or AI and art. I don't know, in
Is
art,
AI art?
all of it. Yeah, right before we started filming, we were talking about it a little bit.
Yeah, it's quite the hot topic. You know, there's a lot of different directions and areas where people are wondering where the line is blurred, what is appropriate, what's good, what's bad, you know. And there's lots of places where the overlap works perfectly, and this is a good example of it, you know. Another interesting example would be there is a possible posthumous portrait I need to do of an executive, and they don't have any good photo that would be for a portrait, but they have loads of photos of him. And I put it into an AI app that works on doing more like headshot stuff, and it was amazing what it came up with. So part of the proposal, I found a couple of them that worked really well as a proposal for a portrait of this gentleman, when honestly we didn't have a lot to go off of. So so that's another interesting area where it kind of works. But considering that there's been some very interesting things transpiring in the world of like competitions and stuff. It's really interesting to see what will happen and how we or how regulators are or rule makers of the competitions will adapt the rules to see what they will allow and what they won't when it comes to um, referencing or using AI as part of their art creating, or honestly, where they're using it directly, you know, to submit stuff.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a situation where like the technology is evolving faster than like I don't know, a lot of folks can really keep up with in situations like that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see, you know, in like the next couple of years, kind of the impact of it all.
What do you think, audience? Let us know what your thoughts are. Tina brought up the Jake Don't Draw did an amazing video spilling the tea about the ARC AI scandal. That was one of the things that we were talking about earlier today. Yeah, I'd love to hear. I have yet to see this video. I heard about this video, but I'm looking forward to this evening watching it and hearing about the situation because that is quite the controversy. So, what do you think, audience?
I, for one, appreciate the effort that he put in to really like, you know, thoroughly do his research and I don't know, I thought it was a really well made video. Definitely worth watching.
Yeah, so as Tina is saying, the ARC gave a purchase award to one of the quote unquote paintings, is what Tina's saying. You know, which I'm pretty sure, if I'm understanding correctly, was recanted because it wasn't a actual painting. Is that correct, everyone?
Yeah, so they submitted a image that was like straight from Midjourney or whatever, some AI generator. And then that image was accepted, but then when they got the purchase award, obviously there's no physical painting. So
Yeah.
they basically just like scrambled to try to paint a copy of the AI thing. And part of what's addressed in the video is that even when ARC then like saw the painting copy, they didn't catch the difference.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, they didn't catch
So
it. It
he
was
did an
some-
okay job of representing the.
No, it's so bad.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
No, it's not very good.
it's
That's so
but
interesting.
they still didn't catch it. So
Whoa.
Yeah. You should watch the video.
Oh, I can't wait.
shade was thrown.
Definitely.
Yeah, and so okay, just to throw a little bit more. Can't help myself. I went to that artist's Instagram page after watching the video, and it still says on their profile that they won the purchase award. Like, shameless. So shameless.
Bummer.
I would have,
Dude.
if I had done this, I would be so anxious right now. I would have like disappeared. I would have moved.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of a not a great thing to do for your career. Like,
No.
I don't know, defraud the art world. It's hard enough.
Yeah.
Like we
I
don't
mean,
need
I
this.
felt like
Yeah.
something like this was bound to happen. Like we were gonna
Oh,
have
sure.
something like this happen one way or another. It might have been in a year from now or whatever. Because I know that they had other AI submissions probably that they threw out.
Oh, this is interesting. Tina says it was also jurred in a show for Samagundi.
It was.
No.
Yeah, it was. They talk about it in the video.
Wow.
And
I mean, I cannot
and
wait to watch
Almanara, I
this.
believe too.
And Almanar? Wow.
Yeah.
Goodness.
She's-
Well, it must have been a
but-
very convincing AI painting. The AI, it looked like it
It's
was an
from far
AI
away, you'd be
generated.
I mean,
like,
I have a picture of it on my phone. Do you want to see it?
Yeah, I'll
Like,
see it in just a second for sure. Well, whenever y'all want to take a break, seeing that we don't have a model, you're welcome to just let us know anytime you do want to take a break. Y'all can keep going as long as you want to.
rest. The oranges need to stretch.
Oh, Todd, I just now saw your comment earlier. So says that I actually said all of those things to them, and it's this photo or not at all. I feel I can make the faces work. It's separating the PJs and the blurry Christmas tree I'm worried about. Well, here's the thing. With the PJs, I don't know the image, so I can't really speak too much to it. But I mean, if you look at a lot of like, say, John Singer Sargent paintings of like siblings and sisters and things that he did, often that's a great place to unify a lot where things, if you have lost edges, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Now, yet again, I'm not looking at this image, so I don't have no clue how poorly it is rendered. So, or like how bad the photo is. So, knowing that, just keep in mind that that might not work at all, but it could be a way of unifying and trying to figure out how to like make different planes work and thinking about the different planes as they turn away from the light. And with the Christmas tree, I mean, yet again, there's a lot of ways to use AI to like either enhance or take out and switch things around, But at the end of the day, if you don't feel comfortable doing it, no money is worth it. So keep that in mind. Don't let your client control your creativity. If you don't feel that you have the creative voice that you wish to have, then it's not worth it.
Well said.
Jan says, I'd change my name, move, and then take some lessons. So Jackson says, my gut instinct is to not like the AI stuff, but I think the greatest artists of the past engaged with time, with the time they live in. AI could be a tool that leads to some pretty cool contemporary paintings. And Jackson, I absolutely agree, wholeheartedly. Oh, honestly, I remember seeing this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
wait, can I?
Yeah, I even looked at it thinking, oh my gosh, they totally painted this from AI,
Yeah,
but
so
no, they
that's-
didn't even paint it from
That's the
AI.
image
It
they
was
submitted,
yeah.
and then this is their painting copy.
Oh, let me see the camera. Okay.
That's the painting copy.
Oh my gosh. I like the color. Like I like the. I think like where I'd be like, I wish that this was a painting, was because I like the compression of the skin, but I don't. This is not real.
Jackson, I'm absolutely in your camp, though. I believe that as a tool, there are some excellent ways of creating new ideas, especially people that are starting out their career and need and can't afford a whole lot of models, or if you want to try to come up with interesting compositions with something, it is a way to spark a lot of different new ideas. So I'm not against it as long as we're using it properly. But yes, if these things are used improperly, then yeah, it's such a bummer.
Create responsibly.
Yes, create responsibly. So Jan says, if I manipulate a photo I take on Procreate and paint from that, is that wrong? So I don't think so, because I also work on photo alone. So if you wanted to manipulate a photo that is yours, then that's one separation from it being very photorealistic, or that the photo is translating all of the truth without any of your input. So absolutely, if you wanted to do that, I don't think that's wrong at all. So, and Todd says, Uncle Louie just upgraded from lunch to dinner. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I recently used Procreate to play around with changing the tone and value of the floor in a reference image.
Mm.
And it was really helpful. So yeah, I think it's really just like dependent on how you use the tools that you have. And like also not necessarily like fully relying on them. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to decide like where's the line.
No, I totally agree.
I'm too technologically illiterate to
And the other
use AI.
thing that I use, like for Procreate or Photoshop, whichever is your form of manipulation, um, is I take some of my paintings and say that I want to do something risky. I'll take a photo of my painting, a good high rendered photo, the way I would do is if I'm like going to use it to send off somewhere, put it into Photoshop, and then test an idea of something and paint over it with Photoshop, or darken something and create a higher light ratio in an area to test it to see if it would be better if I did it X, Y, or Z way. So that way I don't run the risk of like losing maybe freshness, or if I change it, then it gets possibly worse. And so it's definitely a way to use as a tool for honestly, all these tools are to hopefully help save time, because what we do takes a long time. And so if we can find ways to help us be able to like push forward and save a little bit of time, that could be very useful if it's done appropriately.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of the same as like I know some people like to like put plastic wrap over and then paint on the plastic wrap just to try
Yep.
something. It's really like the same thing, just doing it digitally.
Yep.
Never heard of that.
Yeah,
So
like
behind
putting
the
like a
times.
cellophane, or it's not called cellophane, but it's like
Like acetate.
acetate. I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah.
it. Yeah. So
That's interesting.
Yeah, like it's kind of it's a nice way of like very low stakes.
Wow, I just mess up my painting.
Well, you know, we do that habitually. But,
That's smart though.
right? Yeah, I think I like first kind of realized that when I think Divya did it once. I was like, oh, that's brilliant.
Todd says, what are your thoughts on drawing scope for tracing images? I see ads for it on IG.
I don't know what that is.
For what?
It is a augmented reality app that allows for you to superimpose your image from your phone, so that you can use your phone to trace out, basically sort of create your own block-in by tracing out whatever it is that you're putting on your paper. So,
Don't know if I understand. Like,
so
is it like
if instead of like maybe
Like it projects it?
yeah, instead of projecting your image or something like that onto like your paper or your canvas, you can put your phone camera on it, and it's an augmented reality on your phone camera where it automatically detects where your paper is, and then puts the image kind of like as a translucent image on it, and then you can see your hand like on your screen of your phone when you're
Wow.
trying to trace over the thing.
oh my gosh, technology.
So my thing is like, for example, if you there's so many tools and so many ways people do things. I mean, people graph things out. People will use transfer formats like of their drawings and from their block-ins. My thing is often don't compromise your opportunity to draw. And so if you've drawn it out and then you take a photo of that thing and then you put it into your phone and you use that that's probably an ideal way of doing it. But my thing is you've got to understand where your values are in this world of painting and what is important to you and what's not. And so there is some people that would argue there's a lack of energy that would happen if you took your who you are out of the sort of the block-in process. So it really just depends. There's much more minutia to these things, but I think that there's a way to use it as a tool where if you are trying to like learn to draw well, try to block in your drawing and then superimpose the image on the paper afterwards and see how accurate you were.
Yeah, I guess it's a good way to critique yourself.
So it's a
That's-
great
yeah.
way to critique yourself. And I've wanted to actually develop something like this where you can look and see how accurate you were at blocking it in yourself. And it's a great way to train your eye.
Yeah, I'm with Louie on that. And I feel like, too, it's a bit of a tightrope walk where, you know, if you have a tool that can save you some time, like let's say you're, you know, really chasing the clock on a commission or something, and you do this to save some time, great, that's awesome. If you're using it as kind of like a shortcut to supplement a lack of like observational accuracy, then I think maybe there's an issue. And so then using it as like a way of not cutting corners, but rather of like, you know, training yourself, I think that's a much better approach to it.
Yep. You know, I loved what Kinsler said one time. He said, you know, anyone can, if it becomes a thing that anyone can do, then it's almost like changing tires. And you know, you don't want to be a tire changer. You want to keep your creative identity in your work. And so we have to be careful about like how much we use convenience to sacrifice some of our artistic identity in how we would create something to be imperfectly different from what we see. Because what we see from like images are only a certain truth. They aren't the truth. They are a translation of truth. And so we are taking at face value that that is the only truth. And if we don't put our own observation or our own translation to that we might find interesting and truthful in how we create. So that's one format to think about when we are painting. So yeah.
Very well put.
Amen to that. Yeah, Louis, you're very succinct tonight.
Oh,
Not that you aren't always, but like I feel like you're dropping lots of really good wisdom nuggets.
oh, thanks you, Evie. It's because I'm not actually painting. I can think straight.
That's why I'm being quiet.
I think Da
sense now.
Vinci I think it was Da Vinci who was stated for saying it, but it is a masterpiece is not created by the perfections, but is the imperfections that create our masterpiece. So it's the times we make mistakes as being a part of our humanity, part of our human condition, that draws us to something that there's uniquely valuable of who we are and our identity that's tied into the way we translated the world. And I've always thought that was very interesting, and it's liberating to think that way, you know.
Embrace the mistakes.
Yep. So Todd says, I agree with that, but there are artists with tons of followers who project their images without drawing at all. The scope I saw was like that in the movie Tim's Vermeer. Yeah. You know, and that's interesting. Tim's Vermeer, you know, is an interesting documentary. I've watched excerpts of it. I haven't watched it fully through. I'd like to see it all the way through. But the idea that he only used that really takes away the talent that even in translation of things, discredits something that was incredibly powerful about the artists in the Dutch artists of the time period, which were, people just can't believe that you can get that accurate. And for anyone who may have gone to like GCA or some of the new ateliers and to see what people can create from life, it is amazing. It is unbelievably amazing how accurate you can actually get from just using simple skills that you learn from an atelier. So, and yes, I understand, following is different than, that's a whole different topic, right? To talk about, like, our goal is not to have, an incredible amount of followers. It is frustrating to see that because you feel like people who have a following are representing as an authority in the art world, or being represented as an authority because they have a big following. And that is, wow, that is absolutely not the case always. Sometimes it is the case, but it is one symptom of what shows a person who might have authority, but it doesn't mean that they necessarily are going to be the full influence of what is going to happen in the art world. There are powers well beyond our ability to be able to change the art world that that dictate what that's going to be. So you could use that as a frustration for the modern art world too, because there's tons of stuff out there that you're like, yes, my child could do that, and I mean, if you want to get frustrated, go look at Cy Twombly's work,
Don't get me started on freaking Cy Twombly.
and
damn.
yet his stuff goes for millions, and it is literally scribbles, so. Just because people have a following doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing a good job of representing the human condition and our humanity in a sense of poetry.
Yeah.
So just to like circle back into like me being on a podium about art schools and their shortcomings. Yeah, my art school loved Cy Twombly.
Oh, I'm sure.
I was just like,
Yeah.
why? Oh my gosh.
I've blocked out most of my art school memories.
It's fair. I still like, I don't know, if I could go back, I still would go. Like I overall really did have a great experience at Micah. Really because of the people. Like, yeah, the education wasn't what I was hoping for. The people are amazing and made it worth it. And I feel like so often in art education, that's the case.
Yeah. Todd also says, haha, also Tracy Eamon, which, yeah, I agree. If you look at her work, you'll this is the thing that I tell a lot of people. There's a lot of ways to create art and a lot of ways to make a statement in a poetic way. And they may be stating something that is very truthful, and I'm not here to argue whether or not it is making a statement that's very truthful or not, but I do believe that each one of us have, let's put it this way, if the world is resonating, I have a very Plato view of beauty and truth, and so like where there's this like core understanding of truth, and everything that radiates out from it is like a radiation of what's truthful. And so the way I like to think about it is that none of us can ever understand the entirety of truth. We all understand parts of what is true. And some of us have a particular receptor to be able to understand and receive it. And I always think about it like as radio waves. Some of us can like tune in to 95.5 really well, and some of us don't have the antenna to actually have that understood. And so some people really resonate with something that feels very truthful to them, whereas I might not have that resonate with me at all because I just don't have that antenna. So I'm not here to like make an argument about whether or not it is truthful. I can only speak to what I feel is been as beautifully truthful to me.
I think with the AI stuff and with like the question of drawing from a like projected thing like that is, I don't know, like what do you have to lose by learning how to draw? Because I think like whenever anybody's like, how do you do what you do? I can't even draw a stick figure. That's like the thing that you always
Yeah,
get told
yeah,
as an artist.
right.
And I'm like, well, literally anybody can learn how to draw. And they're like, no, you're so talented. And I'm like, no, it's basic math and
Time.
training your eye and time. And it's measurement. Like you can teach yourself how to measure. And you can learn how to like simplify the world to draw it. Whether or not you're going to be like the most amazing drafts person, that's like a different thing. But I think anybody can learn how to draw, just like whatever that quote is from Ratatouille. Anybody can cook.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, why not put the effort in? Because think about how much more enjoyable it is if you were to be like, I'm going to go plein air painting today. And then you can go plein air paint and draw accurately and make a beautiful landscape painting. And it's like you're capturing a memory. I don't know why. I don't know. I know it's a lot of hard work and dedication. But I would say, what is the con? I feel like there are a lot of questions of like, what's the, like, there's pros and cons with AI, but like, really, what's the con of learning how to draw and paint from life? I feel like that would only serve you and everything else.
That's good. That's a good point. That kind of statement reminds me of like, you know, a statement that I really love to say that is a building a well statement. And I think some of y'all have heard me talk about this, but there's an analogy in New Zealand. They have like a lot of sheep and you know, other livestock, and they don't use. There's so much land that they don't necessarily. It would be very cost prohibitive for them to put up tons of fences to mark off their land. It would just be incredibly expensive. So, how do they keep the livestock from running astray? Is they have figured out that is wherever they put the well, where the water is, that's where the livestock is going. They're never going to go too far from the well. And I love this as a metaphor because it's incredibly expensive to spend your time trying to say what is the good thing, what is the bad thing, and where is the division? Where's the spot where we can draw a line in the sand and build a fence? And if you try to do that and you tried to police the whole thing, you'd find yourself, your wheels running often, all the time, you know. Whereas what I'm really more interested in is kind of like what you said. There's something beautiful about learning how to draw well. There's something powerful about creating something that's beautiful. And so at the end of the day, I'm more interested in saying, instead of worrying about what I feel is bad or wrong in the world, what I'm more interested in is building a well of what I think is beautiful and truthful, and to find community that it resonates with. So that, I think, is much more worth your time and your resources. Gail says sound draftsmanship doesn't always produce art. No, it doesn't,
No, it
Gail.
doesn't.
I agree.
It doesn't.
The way I like to say is that what you do when you are becoming a draftsman or whatever it is, you're learning a vocabulary. And so what you're doing is you're building a dictionary of understanding. And the more of a dictionary, the larger your dictionary is, the more words you have to use to create poetry. And it doesn't mean that you necessarily can create poetry better, but it does give you a larger well of information that you can use to control and be able to say, hey, if I wanted to do this, then I know that I have control over my medium well enough to know that I can create X, Y, or Z. So even though I actually know people that are wildly talented that actually have a very small vocabulary in their field, but what they do so well. Their poetry is so beautiful to me that it doesn't even matter whether or not they can do something else well or not. That's fine, you know. But if you want to allow yourself to understand how to control a medium to a degree that allows you to do the things you want to do in your poetry, then maybe a broader understanding and vocabulary might be what you need. The same is true for like anatomy. I know incredible draftsmen that don't know hardly anything about the names of the bones and how they connect, but they're so astute to their attention and observation that they don't need it because they have other tools of investigation that are just as powerful. Learning to put together words is not necessary is another skill set that needs to be learned, you know. So you can memorize every word in the dictionary, right? But if you don't know how to put them together in a beautiful way that actually evokes an emotional response to somebody who's reading them, then it's not necessarily useful to have to know all of that.
Yeah. I appreciate having tools. Like, I appreciate having options, because I had so much I wanted to say when I was in art school, and I was like 19 and wanted to make these like figurative paintings, but I had no tools to make them, none. And that was like the most frustrating thing. I felt like a toddler, like when a toddler is learning how to speak, and you can tell they get really frustrated because they're trying to express something and they like don't have the word for it yet, and they're just mad. I felt like that because I was so limited by what I had, and I had ideas, but I mean, I guess in art school, ideas were the only thing that you needed. But for me, like, I was wanting to do these figurative paintings, and I just appreciate the tools that I've received and the tools that I've worked to get. Because there's like something very, I don't know, I guess very human about pursuing something so challenging.
Yeah.
I wonder what Da Vinci would have thought about AI.
You know, I'm sure he would have used it to a degree that was different than anybody else is using it now. He was such a creative. He was so curious. One of the beautiful things about Da Vinci is that he was just insanely, like, it was an itch. He was so curious.
Yeah.
And so he wanted to know how things worked. And so it was you know, I would assume that he would be no different now, you know, being such a polymath.
I feel like that's such a important reason for doing what we do is curiosity. Like,
Yep.
I don't know, like, I've never spent this long looking at an orange before. I've never really thought twice about oranges, but like being able to have the sensitivity of looking at something for just 3 hours and try to figure out, how do I capture it? It's beautiful. And I think that, like, yeah, that spirit of curiosity is something that like needs to be fostered. And if you can use AI or other tools to help foster that curiosity, then that's great. I think there is also a very real risk that it can kill the curiosity.
I think it kills mine. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Nurture the curiosity.
It's really well said.
Yeah.
You know, for example, I remember my little brother was like reading a series of books. And like my dad got on this like kick of being like, you should read the classics. You don't need to be reading this, and like I remember a couple of years or a year went by and my brother, who always had a book in his hand, always stopped reading. And I went to him one time. I was like, why, I don't see a book in your hand. And he's like, yeah, I kind of haven't been reading lately. And I was like, why? So, well, I was trying to like read some of these classics and I just don't understand them. So like, I don't know. I just haven't felt like reading a lot lately. And I was like, wait, hold on, you know? And so it kind of comes up to that point of like, you need to do something to nurture the curiosity, like the discovery of something in the way you love to discover, to feed that, talk about like different people's personalities are in this for different reasons, I mean, there's definitely where you're getting at, I think, Evie, is that there's also a beautiful form of like meditation of where you are giving something a certain attention of how beautiful that small thing is, that it feeds your soul just as much as the creation should. And if we do a good job of creating it, maybe it'll make somebody pause in our really fast world to think, to stop and look at something for a moment and go, never realized how beautiful a mandarin really is, until I looked at this painting. So, but some people love to create for different reasons. Sometimes it's therapy. Sometimes it is for wanting to create and wanting to master something. It's the purpose of mastery. Some people create for beauty's sake. Some people create because they want to build out a narrative to something. They have something to say to people. And some people have stuff that's just inside and they just want to get it out. And all those are very valid reasons to create.
Well said.
Yeah, along that vein, like I'm so happy we're doing this because I never would have painted an orange on my own.
Oh, I definitely
And
would have.
I'm just, well, I
Yeah.
like, yeah, I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
typically paint a lot of fruit
Mm-hmm.
and I'm loving it. And I mean, even just something like that, like go in your kitchen and grab a fruit and
Yeah.
paint it.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
you don't need a reason other than just like the love of the thing.
Yeah. I think that's why I love, like, when I trained with Henry Wingate, he had such a pure joy of just beauty. Like, he just loved the natural world and he just loved how beautiful it was. And I remember, like, I'd do this, like, very student-y setup of, like, 3 pomegranates in a bowl. And he'd stand in front of it and be like, how beautiful. Like, he just appreciated it. And it was so slow, like, it was like slow living. It was just very, it touched me a lot and it showed me, it just made me grateful. It showed me gratitude. So.
Some might call that the joy of painting.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he was definitely, I learned a lot about composition with him.
He's still painting a lot, right?
Yes, he's still doing his huge paintings for churches. He like gets to do what the old masters did, which is like a scene of Mary and Jesus and stuff. And it's like very, like his inspirations for his paintings are like artists from the 15 to the 1900s. Like it's just pretty amazing. He lives a cool life. It was a different world, definitely, to be in. It was a very beautiful introduction to figurative painting and realism, because it was a little bit like tucked away out of the world. Like there was no cell service at his studio, so if I ever wanted to listen to anything, he would rent a DVD audiobook from the library, and then he'd put it into his.
That's old
DVD
school.
player.
Yeah, that is.
So we would
Nice.
we listened to a lot of Russian literature together. A
Whoa.
lot of stuff about the moon, the space race, twice.
Wow. Yeah.
So, but it was very like he didn't have cell signal, so he didn't have a phone for a lot of the time I was there, and painted everything from life. Had his models from life. He would, if like a model couldn't come in, he would set up a mannequin with the clothing that the person was wearing, and he'd paint from that. And it was just, he just had so much love of painting. It was like it was just very inspirational, and it impacted me a lot when I was there. It was like the perfect introduction when I was like leaving art school, and I was like sad, and I was like, what was I doing? And I felt like a failure because I felt like I had left there with no skills, and I was there in art school for 2 years before dropping out. Like I went right out of high school. And I remember I visited him before I went to art school, and he was like, "Don't go to art school." And I was like, "What do you know? I know everything." Because I was like 17 and arrogant. And then I emailed him like 2 years in, and I was like, "Hey, remember me?" I was like, "You told me not to go to art school, but guess what I did?"
Yep.
But it was like when I worked with him. One of the best things was I would set up like a still life, and I would have to like compose it and everything. And he gave me freedom to compose. He would come over and would critique it, and say, well, it's not very balanced here or whatever. But he was like, you choose backdrop, you choose tabletop, do whatever like that. And then I would just work on the painting till it was finished. And he was like, it's finished when it's finished. You don't have to spend 2 weeks on it. You can spend a month on it. Just replace whatever fruit is rotting, and you can keep working on it. And it was just such a pure love of painting. And he had great aesthetic too. He had like a great studio. And I mean, I'm saying it like past tense, like he's not still here, but he is still here. He has a great studio in the countryside. So
That's the dream.
he modeled it after. There's this one artist whose studio is off of 95 in Virginia near Fredericksburg. So if you're stuck in traffic trying to go to DC, pull off the interstate and you can go to this old like it's like the studio that this artist, I forget what his name is. I'll have to find it. He was alive in the 1900s. He studied in France, but he was American, so he came back to live in America, and he loved the aesthetic of like the studios in France, so he got the plans for one and built his own in Virginia. And Henry modeled his studio after this guy. So it's like very much like a 1900s French studio with
That's
like,
cool.
yeah, like he had huge north-facing windows, and he had like a pulley system for opening certain parts of it and closing other parts, and it was really cold in there all the time. Used to paint my
Well,
winter jacket.
that tracks.
Yeah.
It's not a true
reminds
art
me of
studio if you don't freeze to death a little bit every now
Yeah.
and again.
But
in
it would
the winter.
preserve the fruit. So
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Or sweat when it's the summer.
Yeah.
Either one. So everybody makes fun of me because I don't have heat in my part of the East Oak studio areas, and it can get a bit chilly in here, but for some reason, it does not bother me. The cold doesn't really bother me that much, so it works out great. So I make sure that all the other artists actually have heating in their studios, and I think they're appreciative of it. So, but no, this space in here where we're actually filming can get a little cold. So
I think it's better to be cold than to be hot.
yes, I would agree.
So this is okay.
I would so much rather be hot than cold. I'm not a cold temperature person. I don't know if anyone out there knows what it is, but I have Raynaud's syndrome. So
Oh, my mom has that. I think
it
maybe.
sucks.
Wait.
It sucks so bad.
Is that where your fingers turn blue?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. That's pretty awful.
We need to have like, like the hand warmer pads.
Oh, like you
ready
like
for
shake
you.
them up
Yeah.
and they, yeah, my mom
So
used
whenever
to buy
you're
those
in
all the
here,
time.
we just need you to be like, have those on. Or like the plein air attire for people who paint in the winter, which I don't know if y'all know this. It's you take gloves, like, whatever, like a cotton glove, cheap, and you cut off the fingers on it, okay? You put a hand warmer in that glove, okay? One of those chemical hand warmers we're talking about. Then you take a wool sock and you cut a hole in the top of it and you put the wool sock over your hand, and you can have the brush go into the hole of the wool sock. And so your fingers are toasty warm inside the wool sock, but because the fingers are cut off, you can actually hold your brush easily. And the hand warmer is placed on the inside of that cotton glove, so it stays on your hand and it keeps your hand super toasty while you're outside painting. So we need to do that for you in here, Evie.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
Right?
I need.
I mean, you'd look weird, but you're going to
Yeah.
be warm.
I need-
And I
I
really
need my
don't
own
care.
gloves and I need my own first aid kit. Like, that's a normal studio shopping list.
Right?
I guess I'm really not normal. Yeah, honestly, that's a really good idea. I remember you telling me that, and then the other year when we all went out plein air painting down by the river, I remember thinking, oh, I wish I had listened to Louie and done that.
Yeah, I've tried it once without the hand warmer, and it wasn't cold enough. Like my hands were sweating, and I just ended up having to take it off.
Your hands were sweating.
Yeah, but I to be fair, it wasn't nearly cold enough. It was like 45 degrees or something like that. So in this instance, what I really needed it to be is like, to really test it would be like 30 degrees.
Yeah.
Because once it gets to that temperature, I don't know if y'all have ever experienced it, but your like joints start to move really slow, and you feel like all of your joints like don't have oil in them anymore. Like they're like just squeaking and getting rusty, and you can't move. All of your motor skills just go out the window.
That is frequently how I feel.
Oh.
Yeah. For anybody else out there that has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, yep.
Yeah. I mean, we had some good chatter going on here for a little while, but all of a sudden everybody decided that what we were saying was just like far more enjoyable to listen to than to type. People, we need to hear from you. I was enjoying your thoughts so much. Todd had said that think about all the work Da Vinci put into learning the human heart, which was for his time was useless. Maybe so, but now we get to appreciate his genius. We wouldn't be able to appreciate as well his genius if we didn't know that was like how much he deeply wanted to study and understand. Todd says, I'm with Evie. I'm assuming that means for the cold.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I don't know.
Oh, and Jan says, I'm painting along.
Huh?
I think that was painting along is what she meant to say.
Oh,
Yes.
nice.
So go ahead, Evie. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I feel like my aversion to the cold is just, one, it's like Raynaud's, but then also like an artifact of just growing up in the South. Yeah, not a cold weather girl.
I think being a part of a farmer's son and having to be in the heat every day out in the fields for long periods of time, I think I just got over it.
Yeah.
And my body was just like, I'm going on strike to the heat.
I love I don't know, snow is so nostalgic. Like it brings out my inner child that's excited not to have school that day.
Yeah, yeah. Or like make a cup of
Yeah.
cocoa.
And it's just so beautiful. I love when it snows and it's nighttime outside, but it's so bright because it's like the whole world is kind of
Glowing.
softly, glowing and like illuminated. And it's quiet. Like everything's so soft and quiet. And I love that's my favorite. That and like a calm before a storm. I love those two weather phenomenons.
I'm with you on like quiet snow. Like just the way all sound is absorbed. And the only thing that you can hear is like, I don't know, maybe there's like an icicle that's dripping or,
Or just like the soft whir of a wind, just like,
Oh my gosh, it's like a Robert Frost poem.
right?
For me, it's from growing up. The sound of rain drizzling on the tin roof outside of my childhood bedroom window. And then the little like woo from the train in the distance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Like that is what home sounds like to me.
I love that. So I remember right when like HD TV like came out. It was like such a big deal, and nobody was really broadcasting in HD 1080p, that much. But about a year or two later, I ended up buying an HD TV, and they had this channel which I wish they still had, which was a nature channel that was only scenes. It was like 5 hours every morning where they did only scenes of these high definition cameras that they would put out in like the tundra and
cool.
all of these places like up in the snow, or maybe it was like a waterfall or another place. And I would get up every morning and I would just like turn that channel on, and every now and again you'd see like a snow bunny or something like hop across the snow, while all you would hear is that sound, like it's just like,
Oh.
Oh, it was the best to like have a cup of coffee, warm coffee, and just like sit there and sip it while you're looking at the cold. It's just like, it's so great.
Oh my gosh, this sound you just made reminded me of that like stop action old oh my gosh, movie.
Rudolph.
Yeah.
Oh, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer?
Claymation.
Yeah. Claymation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like that exact wind sound.
Yeah.
And then the like snowman narrator
Yep.
like comes.
Yep. Silver and gold, silver and gold. Scott Jones says, I follow East Oak's former and current artists so closely that I feel I know what everyone's planning on doing.
Aw. I wish
I
I.
mean, with this
I
painting,
wish I knew
don't
what
know
I was doing.
I've been off to I don't know why I did this.
Just ask Scott. He'll let you know what you need to do.
What do you foretell with this painting, Scott? Because I don't know what I'm doing.
Emily says, kids are finally in bed and I'm getting out my paints. Woohoo!
Yay!
Daniel says, if you live in Michigan, you're in range of museums in Cleveland, Toledo, Detroit, Flint, Chicago, but it's cold.
Yeah.
This is very true. Y'all do have fantastic museums up there. Some really fabulous collections.
Yeah, I was really bummed that I didn't get to go to the Art Institute when I was in Chicago back in
it's
November.
amazing.
I just planned my trip not very well, or like I just didn't give myself enough time. But now that I've been and I like, I'm not a total stranger to the city. Next time I'll go. Did you go, Louis?
Sorry, I was fixing one of the cameras. What did you say?
Did you go to the Art Institute when we were in Chicago?
I did. Yeah, it was amazing. So I had such a good time. Now, I will say I was disappointed about one thing. they have an Abbot Thayer that I love there. It's one of his winged figures, and it's such a beautiful painting. And it was like on loan somewhere at an exhibit, so I didn't get to see it. And like, I was one of the main things that I wanted to see while we were there.
If I'm thinking of the right Thayer, the angel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would love to see that.
Yeah,
Is that the
it
one
was
with
just
the
beautiful.
sky background? It's the one with her with. There's one at the National
this-
Portrait Gallery in DC, but
Mm-hmm.
is she sitting from the side?
Yes, I think so.
It's
It's the
more
one from the
yellowy.
side. Mhm.
Yeah, I love that one. I love Thayer.
Yeah, Thayer's just, he's awesome, man.
I think I should have done what you did, Evie. Because I chose to do too many things.
Yeah, although I feel like
I like how concentrated yours is.
I'm trying to like kind of get a diagonal composition with this, but I'm starting to question if that was the right move. But we'll find out.
Jackson says, as a Michiganator, I can confirm Daniel's statement. I shoveled 5 inches of snow this morning.
Whoa.
Going to the Muskegon Museum of Art to check out their new renovation on Saturday. Then he says, Lewis, did you have any favorite pieces that really stood out when you were at the Art Institute of Chicago? Let's see. Yes, there was a Sargent painting that it had been a very, very long time since I had seen in person. And it kind of smacked me in the face. I really enjoyed seeing it in person. It had been such a long time that I'd forgotten that it was there. So it was a pleasant surprise to see it. I'm trying to remember which one it was. I'm so bad with like the titles and the names. It's like I know so
Me
many
too.
like particular paintings that I love, but I can't remember the names of them. So I might have to look it up here in a second. But that one was one of them. And believe it or not, I will say that I was amazed. The curation has been, obviously, the last time I went, I was in high school. So like this was 2000 was the last time I had been there. And so they've changed things around significantly since then. But I loved like the wall colors that they curated for some of the Impressionist paintings. And they just really made them pop. And it, really appreciated those. They were really nice. Also, they have a Jules Breton painting there that I absolutely love. It is just so, so good. So that was another painting that really stood out to me that I enjoyed seeing. I'm trying to think about what other paintings that were there that I was really enamored by. And the reason we were in Chicago is because we were there for Tina's wedding.
Which was beautiful.
It was such a beautiful wedding. Had so much fun.
Yeah, it was great.
And we danced. We had a good time.
Oh, you danced.
I danced. I definitely danced.
Yeah, Tina, you got to send me that video. Yeah, I tried to dance. I was on crutches at the time.
It's a little hazardous.
I tried.
Yeah.
I tried. Not that I'm a great dancer anyways, because I'm absolutely not. But maybe it was for the best that I was on crutches.
So Todd says, gotta bounce. Thanks so much for your insight, Lewis. And the paintings look amazeballs.
Aw,
Aw.
thanks.
Oh, abso amazeballs.
Thank you. Thanks for joining.
Gail says, Lewis, what is it about Thayer's work that offends the Thayer naysayers? Oh man.
There's Thayer naysayers.
I will
Well,
not
you know
hear any
what?
of
For
it.
every artist that's out there, you're going to have naysayers, right? So that's a really interesting question. I really don't know because I don't know too many naysayers, but I would assume that some of them, number one, well, he didn't necessarily paint archivally, so he was so chunky and heavy with his paint, and there's lots and lots of energy in him that I think that they're cracking all over the place. There's all sorts of stuff sliding off, you know. So I mean, you could make an argument that you could be that George O'Hanlon would probably just sit there and shake his head and when he looks at it. But I wonder what some of the people have issue with. It could be his drawing style. It could be that it was, something to do with maybe his subject matters. I'm not really sure. But he was a very energetic painter and a real painterly painter. And if you wanted someone that was like highly rendered, like a Bouguereau or something that, he's not going to be that. So I'm not really sure. I can't speak for the naysayers out there. I wish I could.
Would the Thayer naysayers be naysayers?
Oh, they absolutely would. From now on, Gail, we're going to call them naysayers. That was a good one, Evie. On the border of a dad joke,
Gender's fluid. I can make dad jokes.
100%. There you go. I will say there is probably no flower painting out there that I think is more and that enamors me more than Abbott Thayer's Roses that is in the National Portrait Gallery. It is just truly, I mean, it almost brings me to tears when I see it. It's just so good.
Yeah, I feel like that, like, just about every artist I've met is like, that's my favorite floral.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is hands down. I'll put that up against any Fanton Latour, I mean, he's amazing too. He's amazeballs, but there's just something about it that just touches and like pricks my spirit. It's just awesome.
It's like perfectly brief, but then rendered just enough. Like I like, right after I got engaged, we went to the National Portrait Gallery and I took a picture of my ring in front of that painting. I was like, I love that painting so much. And I just love Thayer. And I just got engaged, so I was like, oh.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
Gail has now adopted the naysayers.
Naysayers.
Yes.
Copyright that.
Yes, exactly. Trademarked here on East Oak Studio.
Hey, another discussion. Lewis, would you ever file for formal copyright of any of your paintings? I know it's automatically given, but
probably. I mean, I have definitely done copyright stuff in the past, but it wasn't necessarily for my paintings. So every now and again, there's stuff that I'll make sure that's copyright for like film and that kind of stuff, but not necessarily any of my paintings because, it's one of those things that I think that our work is so unique. Anytime that someone wants to try to rip it off, our community is small enough to be able to call it out.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, I remember my pottery teacher telling me this once, who's probably one of my greatest art instructors when I was an undergrad. And he would say, anytime that you start mimicking somebody too closely, people are going to call you out on it, And so, and anytime I have found that if something was represented as their own, like I know that Josh had sometimes several people in China like try to recreate his work,
What?
but
And pass it off as theirs?
Yeah, I think
Oh,
so. Yeah.
wow.
Tried to like sell something that was very similar. But if you look at the quality, it's just like the guy trying to like paint the AI painting.
Sure. Yeah.
You can just tell that it's not him. And on top of that, it's just like most time imitation is the best form of flattery. So I just chalk it up that that kind of thing is going to happen. And yet again, it's too much of my time to police. So, but, and for the most part, copyright law protects us so heavily on that kind of thing. If you have it documented well, it will not matter, you know?
Yeah.
So,
That reminds me of like, I think it was maybe this past summer or maybe 2 years ago. Hollis Dunlap went to Italy to teach a workshop, and then he saw a copy that someone had done of one of his paintings hanging in a gallery.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
that's awesome.
What
That's
did he
really funny.
do? Do you know?
Oh gosh, I asked him about it and I can't remember. I can't remember. I'd have to go back and check my messages from whenever that was.
What a surreal experience.
Right? Yeah.
So I'm going to we're kind of a little past halfway. I'm going to take this opportunity to say to everyone that Caroline is also going to be doing a live stream workshop with us. It is going to be on the 11th, is that right? The 11th of March through the 13th. She's going to be demonstrating one of her paintings of how she does her figures backlit. So we would love for everyone to join us. It would be
Yes.
a blast, and she's going to do great. It's good. It's one of her first workshop debuts, so we're so honored that we get to be a part of that journey and to be a part of her team while she's growing in that world. So excited.
I'm very excited.
Yay!
And I will be painting better than I am right now.
You're painting beautifully.
Ow.
Don't even come on.
Thanks. I do so much better in 2 layers. I think that's like my brain doesn't do alla prima anymore.
No, this looks like a beautiful alla prima painting.
Oh.
Just keep going.
I don't know, but it'll be a great workshop, and I'll be talking a lot about like finishing a portrait rather than beginning it, because I feel like there's a lot of content out there about like starting a portrait or the alla prima portrait. And I feel like what I always wanted to see, which I'm going to force you guys to see, is like finishing a portrait and finishing one out. So
It can be so hard to tell when a portrait is done.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's why it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Heidi says, I have a question related. If we paint a painting from your reference photo, are you okay with us selling it if you are credited as the photo reference? I don't expect to have a winner, but in case it was. Heidi, absolutely, you're welcome to. The reason we put this out is for our audience. So you're free. This is copyright free. You're welcome to use it for whatever you want to. In fact, Ashwini, who has been one of our artists that have come here to do a workshop video with us before, she actually won a contest with a portrait of yours truly that she had done as a reference image from when I was modeling for Painting from Life One Night. So, no, we welcome that. We want you to be able to use these reference images the way you want to. It's free for you to use. So, the only thing we ask is that you just continue to shout East Oak Studio from the rooftops to say that what we're doing and why we do it. That's all we say. That would be a good tip for us in return.
Thank you for asking.
That's
Yeah.
very thoughtful to ask.
Do you think we can take a break?
Yes, everyone, we're going to take just a 5-minute break. We will be back shortly.
I should have just
We're back, everybody.
done half of this.
Could always
I
cut
could have
it.
just done one. That's what I should have done, just one Mandarin.
Single orange.
Yeah,
Portrait of an orange.
yeah.
Yeah, it is always ambitious to do that many, but honestly,
Yeah.
you're doing a
It
great
looks
job
great,
of
Caroline.
like
Yeah.
the amount you're doing. It's going to make a really beautiful painting. So,
If I get access to that reference image, I might finish this out later.
Yeah, I'm at a point where I'm kind of like wondering wondering about like how I want to approach the, I guess, pores of the orange. Like what else would you call
Hyper
them?
real.
Whatever they are, the little
Yeah.
like
The
Yeah.
dimples.
texture. The dimples. That's a nicer word.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Because I
they
feel
do
like
kind
that's
of have
such
a porish look to them, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's such a like defining feature of oranges that like I want to include it.
Yeah, we don't use filters here. We don't filter out pores.
Yeah. Can't remember the last time that I painted something that was orange. It's really not a color I work with a whole lot, but it's so fun.
Right?
I love orange. I love like so the neutrals on things that are orange are like green and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's so fun.
Well, and I love it too with like the kind of like peachy, purpley undertones in the fabric, like, and the way that the color is bouncing around is just really, really fun. I just love color.
I love color too. I couldn't limit my palette. I have over and above palette.
Hey, it's better to have too much than too little, right?
I don't know if Zorn would agree with you. Have you guys ever painted with a Zorn palette?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
How do you feel about it?
I mean, it's great. It really does help you understand how to create a color harmony without having to think too hard about it. But if you're used to having more color on your palette and you're trying to control like different parts of how you go in different hues, it sometimes can be frustrating. But no, it's really great.
Did it simplify things for you in your brain using a Zorn palette?
That's a good question. I don't know.
'Cause
I don't know
that
if I've
people
used
feel-
it enough for me to be able to make an assessment on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the Zorn palette, it's like fun and educational and a good exercise, but it's not something that I would do
As your normal palette.
as my normal palette, like for my own work. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, totally.
Like, it's only something I would do for like a dedicated Zorn piece or Zorn study. I don't know. I also like, I haven't really worked a lot with limited palettes in general.
Yeah, I only add to my palette and never take away.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I think the last time I did a limited palette was for East October. It's been a minute.
Mm.
But it's fun though. Like I like the challenge of it. Maybe I should do it more.
Lewis, how much has your palette changed since, I don't know, GCA? I guess.
Yeah, gosh. I've done since GCA significantly, probably. But if you were to say like within the past 6-7 years, I've probably only switched out one or two colors, but I do switch colors usually. So, like for example, um, I was using a lot of lead tin yellow, and I still like that color a lot. However, recently I was just using a Naples yellow from, I think it was Michael Harding that I got. Um, and I don't know, I really, Naples yellow light, and it's such a similar color to lead tin yellow. And I was just playing around with it, and I kind of like, for what colors I try to mix with it, I kind of like its hue. It's slightly less cold, like less lemony,
Yeah.
and I think it makes it easier to mix some more subtle skin tones that I'm doing like in the light. So
See, that's funny. That's what I love about lead tin yellow is like the lead tin yellow lemon hue.
Right.
Like it's so yummy.
and it's such a yummy color, and the Naples that I use right now is still in the cold section of yellow, where it is in that lemony state. It's just a little lower in value and a little more neutral.
Yeah.
So, and I like the tinting strength of it. So that's an example. Another good example is I actually always had cobalt blue on my palette, but I rarely used it. And then I started experimenting with it because I was like, I keep putting this color out and I just never use it. And I found that in higher skin tones, it is now almost a necessary color for me to mix some of the neutrals that I like to use in my skin tones. So that's another thing where I used to only use ultramarine, and now I use cobalt almost equally as much as I use ultramarine, and I just use ultramarine more in my lower values, and if I want to shift something a little bit more on the purpley side.
Lewis, I just realized the heater is still on. Is it coming through the mic?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
Caroline,
It's
are,
very
you,
low.
are you getting any of it?
Yeah, I'm getting my feet feel slightly more warm.
Good. Cool.
So as we were saying earlier about the studio here, I was just noticing that my two artists up there were frozen. So I turned the heater on for them. So you might hear a low hum, but as long as it's consistent, you don't really hear it that much.
Cool. Thank you.
So
I feel like I'm kind of like similar with cerulean,
Mhm.
except similar but opposite. Like I used to always put cerulean on my palette, no matter what. I literally never. I haven't touched cerulean in like 3 years. Like I just never use it.
There you go. There you go. So Emily says, using an adapted Zorn palette for drawing really simplified color for me, and my brain likes it better than when I would get intimidated. When I would get intimidated looking at a whole box of pastels.
Oh, interesting.
Gail says, is vermilion still super expensive and mostly unavailable? Yes. Yes, it is. Both expensive and hard to, very few companies actually still carry it. I don't even think Rublev carries it anymore, and I used to love their vermilion. It's such a wonderful color. But yeah, tough to get now, for sure. But I think, does Michael Harding do a Chinese vermilion still? I
don't
think
know.
I think he might, but
I'm not sure if they do still or not. That's a good question. I have never once used vermilion,
Neither have I.
and
oh
yeah, I'm
man,
sad about that.
yeah,
Oh.
it's
I didn't know. What
the
am I missing out on?
the way it mixes with lead white. Number one, creates these such beautiful pink tones that work really good in if you have a very fair skinned person, it will work great in lips because it doesn't get too powerfully chromatic. The other thing about it is its tinting strength is just nigh to nothing compared to like cadmium red, where cadmium red you use the tiniest amount and it just like dominates all of your color. Vermilion is a very, very balanced tinting strength. So you can use an appropriate amount a medium amount, and it'll mix so well with your colors. So,
Aw, now I'm having FOMO. I've never even
Vermilion
tried.
FOMO.
Yeah, vermilion FOMO.
and I had my tube for 7 years. So like it cost $200, but like I had it for a very, very long time, and I'm now just at the end of it. So,
I mean, that's worth it.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
That is worth it.
Oh, Kristen Yan just joined, said, oh, all my favorite people.
Aw,
Big
hi,
heart.
Kristen.
Hi, Kristen.
Another person we'll have to have come join us live. I need to work out where everyone can join the audio side of this so that all of you can hear if someone does join live with us. That would be a lot of fun. So,
Kristen, I want to take a second to tell you your color study that you posted the other week. It's like my favorite color study I think I've ever seen. It's so beautiful. I
Yeah.
cannot wait
Very
to see
beautiful.
the painting.
it's going to be pretty awesome.
I'm very excited as well.
So Jackson says, I think I read somewhere along the line that Bouguereau preferred cobalt over ultramarine in his skin tones as well.
Ooh.
It's fun seeing works of art in person and imagining what pigments they were using. I agree.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I pour over anything related to Bouguereau. He's my favorite. And I sometimes like wonder if, I don't know, like paints back then were slightly different than what we have today. I mean, they probably are, but there's so many things saying like Bouguereau's palette. Like we search Bouguereau's palette, and there's so much out there, and they're all different lists. And I'm like, But
Yeah.
I think speaking of the ARC, I think on the ARC website there's an article by Mark Walker, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
And he has like a whole write-up on Bouguereau, and I think it's called Bouguereau in the Studio. And I think that he mentions his palette, and it was pretty big, if it's true. And I'm always curious about what Bouguereau used.
Louis, that reminds me, we should release my pigment lecture.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We need to just like clean it up,
Yep.
and then we'll be ready to go. That would be fabulous. So Evie has already recorded with us a whole pigment lecture on
cool.
lake colors. So lake pigments. So join us sometime in the near future when we get that up and released. So it'd be great.
Ooh, I want to watch that.
And Kristen says, so sweet, not so sweet. I don't know what that means. So sweet. Thank you. I didn't do my radio voice exercises before we started, unique New York.
Think of High School Musical.
I actually don't know if I ever saw that. I think that was like, I was like just a little bit
Mhm.
older.
That was my
Yeah, that
childhood.
skipped my time.
Yeah.
That was my childhood.
I don't know. I watched a lot of CNN when I was a kid.
What?
I don't know. I won't attempt to explain that, but there it is. I mean, I like, I still watched like cartoons and stuff growing up, but I always had to fight for like control of the TV remote with my two brothers.
Oh,
So yeah.
yeah. I had 5 siblings, so it was competitive as well.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, we had like so many like funny little I don't know, ticks, I guess, in hindsight. Like we had this system where we would like try to save our seat on the couch.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like you had to say reserve.
yeah.
Yeah.
Seat check.
I know.
Like
Yep.
you can't steal
Oh my
my
gosh.
seat.
The biggest fights was when usually like you thought the rule for shotgun was oldest gets shotgun.
Yeah.
And but people would usurp that rule and they just run to the car as fast as they
Yeah, no, it's the first one
Yeah.
who gets it.
could. That was such a point of contention in my family.
Oh yeah, man. I call the seat.
I know. I called it 5s, and then no, somebody doesn't listen to that rule, and I'm like, well, what else do we abide by in life? Rules.
Yeah, exactly. So the article that you speak of is Bouguereau at Work by Mark Walker, and it is actually on the ARC Art Renewal website. So
For
just
free.
Google it for free. Check it out.
I love that. If you guys want to read interesting stuff more about Bouguereau, kind of. His second wife, Elizabeth Jane Gardner, was also an artist, and she was an American who went to study in France while Bouguereau was obviously alive because they got married. And so she sent a whole bunch of letters back home to her family in America describing, like, very in detail her education in the 1900s and 1800s Paris ateliers. So she got to study with Jerome, and so all of her, I don't know where, I need to find it because it was such an amazing read, but I think it was somebody's like thesis, and I was able to find it, but they're all compiled so you can read them in order, and she talks about like what working with Bouguereau was like, and she talks about her own experience, and it's really interesting. And she talked about like how she had to apply for a license to look to dress up like a man so then she could study in the French ateliers because women weren't allowed to study in the French ateliers at that time. And she was there, like while she was there, they later opened on Académie Julian,
yeah.
where Bouguereau taught, and they let in women. But it was like when she was there and she was wanting to take classes, she had to like put pants on and got a special license to do so. It's very interesting, like the life back then. Like she talks about how she and Bouguereau have a lion in one of their paintings. I think it's her painting of maybe Daniel in the lion's den or something like that. There's one curly-haired Italian-looking boy like with his knee on a lion, and she said that she and Bouguereau were able to go to the zoo and the lion had died. So they asked the zookeeper if they could keep the lion.
What?
And the zookeeper was like very French, and he was like, I don't know why you want to do that. And like kind of argued with them. But she was like, but we were able to get the lion and take it back to the studio. And so it's like that's why I'm like, well, why do that?
Can you
like,
imagine getting to paint a lion for life?
I know.
It's so cool.
So I'm like,
You mean from death?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. But like,
Bad joke.
if you want to read about little snapshots of what it was like to live in that time period, I'll look it up and send it to Lewis, so then he can send it out if you guys are interested. I loved reading it. That was my nighttime reading at one point.
I would love to read
Yeah.
it. That's amazing.
Very interesting.
What was it called?
Lewis, can I look it up really quick?
Sure,
Oh,
of
don't worry
course.
about it.
No, I want to look it up because I have it saved and I want to send it out so that people can.
I'll send a website link out on the comments.
That's so cool. I have a book that I've neglected for a long time that I started that I should finish. That's about the life of Madame X.
Ooh.
That I picked up from the National Portrait Gallery.
Yeah, I love the behind the scenes. Like, I want to know how these people live life. Okay, I just texted it to you, Lewis.
Perfect. All right, everybody. I'm sending it out to the group. Anyone who wants to look into that.
That's awesome. Thank you,
Yeah,
Caroline.
you're welcome. I just love, I loved reading about that. It was like, because then you get to, it's like, It's like watching a TV show where you're like all your famous people that you want to know so much about. It's like
Right.
look like a snapshot because like she studied with Jerome, and so there's like particularities about Jerome that she notes in her private letters to her family. But it's
Yeah, I
just
wonder what he was like as a
Yeah.
person.
so that's where and then you can read a little bit about how Bouguereau was and as a person and like what it was like for him in that time period. Apparently, he was like extremely famous. Like our Hollywood was what he was. And you would never know it today.
Huh.
And just like the day-to-day part of stuff, like her mother-in-law didn't like her very much.
Oh.
Yeah.
And they didn't get married till she died.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wait, they didn't get married till she actually was about to die?
No, until the mother-in-law.
Oh, till the
till
mother-in-law
Bouguereau's
died.
mother.
I was about to be like,
Yeah.
wow, okay.
I mean, that'd
No,
be kind of
yeah.
messed up to like posthumously get married.
Yeah, that would be that.
Somebody-
You
Yeah.
know, I'm sure someone out there has done it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
but
Ugh.
you're right. That would be odd.
Um,
That's one thing I actually really, really, really miss about living in Baltimore was the huge collection of Jerome's
Oh man,
at the Baltimore Museum of
and
Art.
Tadamo. Y'all had
What?
several Alma Tadamo.
In
Yeah,
Baltimore?
Yep.
it's amazing.
oh my gosh. I
And
have to go.
Bouguereau. Y'all had like
What?
4 Bouguereaus.
Seriously?
Yeah, the Baltimore Museum of Art is a hidden gem. It is amazing.
It's
And the
legit.
Walters Museum in Baltimore.
Okay, I have to go.
Yeah, it's like if you're like ever going to like DC for whatever reason, it's so worth it. Just go to Baltimore, go to the museums.
Wow. I mean, my parents live right there.
Amazing. Yeah, the Walters Museum was literally right down the street from my old apartment, and I would go like every chance I could get. I really miss that. We should do a NCMA field trip at some
I
point.
agree.
They have that little Bouguereau now. Also, they have a catalog from the Paris Salon,
Oh, cool.
and you can only look at one page.
Oh,
But it's like, get to see what number this person's painting was, and I think how much money it was going for.
yeah. I haven't been there in a long time.
Fine.
That's that was my first job out of college. I had an internship there.
Hmm.
No kidding. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, I worked in their education department and redesigned a lot of their tour materials. Would do like website updates. And then I also was a like assistant docent.
Cool.
So like if there was ever a time where a docent like called in sick, I would cover for them. And that was always like so much fun getting to lead kids on tours and stuff.
Aw.
And then I did a project where I recreated replicas of a bunch of the ceramics in the ancient Egyptian collection. That then the kids could like pass them around and like actually experience what it's like to hold the thing without obviously touching the artifacts. But
Wow.
it was a cool place
That's
to work.
really cool.
Yeah, it's the only time in my life I've ever had a job that was like, I gotta put on a blazer in the morning. A little different.
Yeah, they do have that little sergeant painting. Well, not very little. It's like, I think one of his sketches for the library project, you know?
Yeah.
They have one of those, and it's like part of their gallery wall, where I appreciate the concept of a gallery wall, but I want to stick my face as close as I can to a painting, and if it's all the way near the ceiling, I
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
A little tough to do.
Yeah.
I always tell people we have one of everyone, but it's not necessarily the best one. But we have a little bit of everybody, you know. That's about.
Say
That's
that
kind
again? What?
of the museum has just one of a lot of artists you know, and it's not necessarily the best painting they did,
Yeah.
but it is something, and we can go see it, and it's a lot of fun. They have a good book room.
for a state funded art museum, it's pretty good.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm saying it poorly. It sounds like I'm dogging them. I'm not. I'm basically saying that I appreciate what we have here.
Yeah, I think they're gonna be they're doing Art in Bloom pretty soon. They do that every year in the spring.
I gave them an idea. I went in and talked to them because I was like, I wonder if you'd let me see anything that you have in the collection that's not on show. And they basically were like, no.
Yeah.
But then I talked to them and I was like, I used to live in Richmond, Virginia when I went to VCU Arts. And Richmond has the VMFA, the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. And in the evenings on Fridays and Saturdays, they keep the museum openly and offer like a drink, like wine. And it's kind of like a fun little date night type thing, and it's very like a very social thing. So people like from all over Richmond would go and like walk around the art museum late because it would be open till like 9 p.m. You wouldn't walk back near the gallery stuff with like any liquid like that, like wine, but they had like a little bar and it was very classy. And I was like talking to the people this person who works with like events coordination at the North Carolina Museum, and I was like, you guys should do this. And they were like, maybe. And then lo and behold, 2 months later, they did it.
Hey.
And I was like, that was my idea.
Yeah.
I should charge you guys for that.
I mean, it's a good way for them to
Yeah.
make extra revenue.
And I think it just brings in my younger crowd because whenever I go there, I'm the young, like besides children. There's not that many, like I don't know, I don't see that many young people because it's not like super walkable like it is in Richmond, where Richmond's very youthful and you can just like walk from your neighborhood to go to the art museum.
Yeah. No.
So I was like, this will bring in more young people, those youths. Ooh.
The youths.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
you're welcome, North Carolina.
Yay.
Lori says, I just love these live streams and learn so much from them. Such valuable content and amazing, talented artists. Thank you for providing this valuable content. You're so welcome, Lori. Scott says, I always pinched myself that somebody paid me for 18 years to be with art every day and to go to art shows. Yes, it's very true. And then Emily says, Evie, that is so cool. As a mom who takes kids into museums, things that they can hold and interact with are always the most memorable and enjoyable parts.
Aww.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I to be honest, I have no idea if they still use them or not in the tours. I hope they do. But I had a lot of fun making them.
I remember as a child going to a museum, they had a special exhibit for Christopher Columbus, and they had like all of his journals, and they allowed for us to go up and put gloves on and actually touch the page.
Wow.
Wow.
I thought that was like really, really cool. You know, I know that he's not like necessarily painted in the best light these days, but at the time, I thought it was the coolest thing ever, you know. And the writing was really neat looking at it.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, even as an adult, I'm like, I want to like interact with the thing,
Yeah.
you know?
Of course.
Especially for kids, it's important.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
There's so much happening in like these little orange bottoms where the light is bouncing up.
Also, for just a couple of more announcements, we also have Ruth Fenton coming here, or not, yes, she's coming here. We're doing like a little boutique workshop with her, and we're also going to be doing a live stream with her as well of her demonstrations. So anyone who wants to join the live stream part can join with Atelier Live, just like we're doing with Caroline. And then I will be going down to Scottsdale to teach a workshop on the 31st through the 3rd of 31st of March through the 3rd of April. So y'all could join me while we're going there. So, and I'm doing it on composition and learning how to see and compose your work to create poetic work.
Man, I want to go to Scottsdale one of these days. Like, it just sounds so cool.
It's a pretty
It's
awesome
such
place.
a different landscape. I would love to paint out there.
Lewis, what exactly about composition are you going to be talking about?
Honestly, we're going to be breaking down sort of the components of it so people can not only reverse engineer really incredible works and why they work, but also how to use it to be more intuitive when a good composition, when good elements are starting to come together, to be able to recognize it and see it. So we're going to be going over some of the psychology of how that works, such as like the Gestalt principles of visual perception and how they apply to what we do. So there's a lot of psychology involved that I go over, and then we put it into practice, and we do it with sort of a head and shoulder, and then we do single figure and then multi-figure, and each day we progress, and then we do exercises with thumbnails as well as color studies, and then some photography lessons as well.
Cool.
So it's a little bit of everything. It's kind of a hodgepodge, sort of a crash course, so to speak, for all the different elements that it takes to help you compose. So a
Wow.
large amount of it is just introductions to those elements, and then what you should practice and resources to use, that kind of thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is an amazing workshop.
It is anyone who's taken it has actually just like been blown away by it. I will say that when you look at the title of it, you know, it's not as like, you know, sexy as some of the other things that you might be able to take. You know, it's not like, you know, painting a portrait with someone that you love the way they do this, that, and the other. But the resource that you get from it is incredibly helpful. It's kind of what I think a lot of people need. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, speaking
awesome.
of art school, I wish that, like, at least if they were just going to talk about everything and not do it, I wish they would have at least talked about composition.
Yeah.
So Jan says, I'm painting along, and the hardest part so far is the shadow areas on the cloth. Any tips?
But I would say definitely try to keep them flat. And everything is kind of a hierarchy, so if you squint your eyes and you look at it, I would say, like, value-wise, the mandarins actually, if you're like including the reflected light with them, and the shadows are pretty similar value-wise, but you have difference in chroma. The mandarin's shadows are maybe a little bit lighter, so I would say definitely balance your shadows with keeping keeping them as flat as you can, and then I normally spend a lot more time on my shadows than I am right now. So my shadows are usually have a lot more. But I would say keep the edges as soft as possible. And definitely you don't want them to look cut out. So I would pay attention to what's called like the penumbra, which I don't know scientifically what it is, but I do know visually that it's like the soft, cooler piece of
The fuzzy edge.
it's like the fuzziness, and you want to keep that as soft as possible. Like, you want to blend that out as much as you can.
Show somewhere on your painting what you're talking about as the penumbra.
Let me put something in like that. So
I would if I'd painted them.
I would say it's like when you're going out of the shadow, like here, and it's not dark. It's definitely almost as light as the background, but like a slightly step down or in value. Although like my background needs to be lighter than what it is. Like my base of my panel is way more blue and light than it needs to be. So I'll probably fix that later. But I would say definitely like abstract the shapes. So you're looking at it because they are very abstract shapes. And people like to keep their shadows super transparent. And I would say if you're doing multi-layers on this, I would do more of like a washy first layer of a shadow. And then later on go over it with a little bit more opaque light and keep a little bit of the transparent bits if you can. Because it's not just, like it's part of your backdrop. It's not like the shadows are a whole different entity. I don't know if that helped. That was kind of a mishmash of thoughts.
No, I love that. The best, like the initial part of what you're saying with keeping your values or your shadows flat or your values very close together for both your mandarin oranges, the reflected light, and the cast shadow is a really important lesson, because when you do that, you unify your painting. It allows for the parts in the light to stand out and create more of an abstract shape throughout everything. That was really good. As far as the penumbra science behind it, I won't go too deep, but basically it is when partial parts of the light source, if you have a really broad light source, like a big umbrella of light like you would use for photography, you have a really broad light source, so some parts are casting shadow, but the other parts are wrapping around, are still like in the light. So like one side of the light source might still be exposed, but other parts of it, the mandarin orange, might be casting shadow and can't be seen. And that's what creates that soft shadow, which it's like half shadow because half the light is covered, but the other half isn't. So when you have a small light source, such as like the sun, your penumbra is very tiny because the light source is really tiny. So you, depending on your scenario, you could have a very sharp or a very soft penumbra. And then the longer the cast of the shadow, the softer the edges and more penumbra that happens as it gets further away from the object. So for the same reasons. So that's what really creates that penumbra effect.
Interesting. I love soft shadows.
Jan says, thank you so much. Yeah, I think flatness and hard edges are my worst offenders.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I look at my old fruit paintings, my one, I'm not gonna be super mean to myself, but my critique of my mandarins, that huge still life I did, is that they look like little cutout moons in the sky of my background, because I made the edges so soft, like so hard, and but I think there's a difference between making an edge hard and like you don't need to make an edge soft. You don't need to blend it out so everything's fuzzy. You can just very carefully like form model around it. Wow, that didn't work how I wanted it to. And I have heard it said, I think Michael Klein talks about how when he talks about lost edges or like soft edges, if you place a note, if you're like turning a form like the edge of this mandarin, you don't have to like physically fuzz it out like that. You could take the equal value of like your background and slowly place it along, and it'll look like it's turning. So it's not like this kind of fuzzy, like...
There's a lot of ways to make those soft edges. You're
yeah.
right. That's a fun study in and of itself, is how many ways can you create edge work and how broad of a range you can have in your edge work as far as soft to hard. So it's amazing how much range there is. So it's kind of like your value range is only these like 10 values, but you have infinite amount of compression that you can do in between those 10 values. And that's what creates our work to look like our work, is how we associate each one of those and create such variety. So edges are just as important to me, I feel like, to making a poetic painting. Using it to your advantage to distract, to turn things, to make sure that people aren't looking at certain areas of the painting. So direction, all of those reasons.
I love lost edges.
And Scott said he is headed to Scottsdale next week, which, that's what they named the town after, was Scott, So he has to visit at least once a month for them to retain his
Keep the
name as
crown.
exactly, the name of his town. I'd love it if he just was like walking down the street with his Scottsdale crown on, I'm sure I'm not the first to make this joke either. I'm sure he's like sitting there like, yeah, that's original, Lewis. No one's ever thought of that one before. Jan says it seems easier to manipulate edges with flowers, but oranges and leaves are a little more challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. They're so round.
Yeah, everything looks sharp when you're like looking at it, in a
Oh.
way. So you have to like think about when those planes seem to be grouping together in certain spots where you can create a softer edge.
Yeah, I just squint. I like optical painting. Don't have to think as much.
I also would recommend for shadows paying close attention to the way that the light is bouncing around within the shadow and how you actually can get a lot of orange light that's bouncing off the surface of the orange onto the surface of the cloth, like in areas like here. And then looking at the temperature, kind of like how, that warmth contrasts with like a lot of, more of the cooler core shadow areas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I'm gonna say if you have, from all of my time painting mandarins on walls, if you have light wall, like if you have a cool wall, there's like a kind of rule with, if you have like, what is it, cold light, you'll have is it cold light, warm shadows? There's like a rule there with like visually making it work, which I also think happens in real life.
Yeah, so there's I call it more of one of those like simplified rules of thumb.
Yeah.
That if you have a cool light source, then you have warm shadows. It's not necessarily what's happening, but what it is happening is that it is more neutralized or taking on the atmosphere of whatever room you're in.
Yeah.
So oftentimes, if it is a cool shadow or cool light source, then we only know it to be a cool light source in its relative nature to what else is observed around it. So whatever else is observed around it probably has to be warm for us to know it's cool. So for that reason, the shadows often will feel warm, and it's a great way to paint because you can separate them more easily that way, pushing those different hue shifts to a degree that allows for us to use our limited um, color range to a place of illusion to be able to push it a little bit more to make it feel more real. So for those reasons, yes, you can absolutely do that. But oftentimes people will get that wrong and only make it like one unified color, where there might be an example of like there's tons of outdoor figure examples where you might have a figure that's under dappled light and they are absorbing the entire environment. So whatever is facing towards the grass is going to have more of a greenish hue in the shadow, and what is facing towards more of the sky is going to have more of a neutral, cool shadow. And so in this instance, we're going to be representing the sun, even though it's white light, as warm. And so, but everything in the shadow might shift on you to where it has a certain pearlescence because of the fact that it might be relating multiple different parts of the atmospheric space.
Yeah.
So it's a good rule of thumb when you're like starting out, but then knowing the why actually gives you more freedom to be able to know what to do in other scenarios and to create variety in your work.
It's another art school complaint. Color theory.
Mm.
I remember I had one lesson on it where my art teacher was like, let me take you guys into this room. And then he took out these 2 pieces of paper, and then they were like differently colored sheets of paper, and then he put the same colored little square on those different colored pieces of paper. And he was like, you see the difference? And we were like, wow. And then he never talked about it ever again.
The only color theory that I got was talking about Josef Albers, and that's it.
Is
Wow.
that,
Like,
what?
Josef Albers was, granted, like a very famous color theorist and artist.
Oh.
So like, good person to talk about with color theory, but there's a whole other world of color theory out there to talk about.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. But there's some really interesting stuff and a lot of interesting science behind it. It's one of my favorite subjects.
Gosh, it's like that's too much for my brain. I still think like I have a little bit of the formy stuff now, but I'm still very like optical, and I kind of like being optical. I don't know, maybe I'm not very sciencey. I'll just say that.
I think Louis could have been a scientist.
Yeah.
I mean, I did get a bachelor in science
Well.
degree, so
So you are a
As
scientist.
a
I
scientist.
was. I mean, I don't remember anything that I was supposed to of my degree, which was biochemistry. But
Oh wow.
I love, love, love physics and understanding psychology and how I just love knowing how things work, and it just fascinates me. Da Vinci and I, we'd be buds.
That's gonna be amazing. Sometimes I don't question stuff. I'm just like, well, this is how I see it. Maybe I should.
I question myself a lot.
Yeah, that is one thing I do question as well.
Phoenix Being asks, how do you pick some areas for grouped edges?
I feel like if you turn on your compositional brain and you're thinking about the whole composition all at once and you're not just zoomed in on one little part, I think it's easier to think about like group edges like that, where if you're looking at everything and you're thinking this would make the most harmonious sense if these edges melted a little bit more into each other, just for like the harmony of the whole painting. Because you could paint every edge as like insanely sharp as you would want to, but I think like a breadth of edges makes a picture look more like it's from life.
Yeah, giving it enough variety. Like,
Yeah. So I think it depends on your image. And I think it depends on what you're painting from. But like I would probably, if I was to go into this way more, I would probably make these leaves that are in shadows way more melty, value-wise and edge-wise, into the shadows. Because I think what I would want people's eyes to go to are the little hits of light that happen, like here, which isn't light enough, and here. And I'd want them to go to the mandarins.
I think too, it's also important when grouping edges to try to use it to help establish a hierarchy of focus.
Yeah.
In that way of like, okay, I'm setting a stage and I'm setting a scene and I want to direct the audience's focus to a particular area.
Yeah. I agree with you.
So we're coming up on 5 minutes. Yep.
Wow.
Oh boy.
Crazy, right? So
Yeah.
Phoenix says, Daniel says, there's only 3 colors. Can't be too difficult, right? I mean, how hard can it be?
I was way too ambitious with this. The next one I do, I'm gonna paint one thing this time I do this, and that's gonna be it.
Figurative artist Benjamin Lester says, hey guys, got a new joke for you. Why do stormtroopers shop at Ross?
Why?
Because it's next to the Target.
It actually is. In Durham, there's a
Yep.
Ross right next to the Target.
There's one next to the Target in Cary too.
That's
The one
so
over by
funny.
Trader Joe's.
My
Yeah.
favorite place.
Good joke.
Yeah, that was a good joke.
Jennifer says painting on LHS in shadows near top Mandarin. I love the shift in tone of the sticks while temperature of the cloth changes. Play on tone against temperature in the same shadow is really interesting. Well, everyone, we're getting close to the end of this session. We are so glad that all of you have joined us. I would like to go ahead and make the announcements once again that Caroline will be coming here March 11th through the 13th, and we'll be doing a live stream workshop with her on our platform. We would love for you to join us. There's links in the description below, and you can also visit our website. Also, I will be teaching a workshop on the 31st through the 3rd of March in Scottsdale, Arizona. If you would love to join me, we would love to have you there. We have a few slots left. Looking forward to that. And then we have Ruth Fitton coming on the 2nd of May through the 4th. So right before Portrait Society. So she'll be here, and I think it's full in person. However, our live stream workshop where she's demonstrating will be open to our platform, our subscribers, and anyone who wants to purchase it as a single purchase. So, but everyone, we appreciate y'all so much for joining us. As always, please, if you feel like it, please like and subscribe. We would love to continue to do these and keep telling people about them so we can keep on doing them. But big thank you for Caroline joining us this evening. It's been a while.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, and as Jennifer was saying, happy Valentine's Day to everyone. I hope that you have a good time with your family and friends and the ones you care about. So, and she says, happy Valentine's Day from Sydney. And thank you so much.
Happy Valentine's
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah. So, everyone, just thank you again for joining us. And until next time, we hope you have happy painting sessions. All right, ladies, say goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Goodbye.